Hi, everybody. I'm Gerard Alaria. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, EMDR certified, and clinical director for uh, the Weill Cornell Medicine Trauma and Addiction Program, Center for Trauma and Addiction. And today, the idea is that we're going to first identify ourselves just by who you are, what your EMDR training and interest has been so far, and what you'd like to get out of today. Who would like to go first?
My name's Barbara Merkson. I live in Salem, Massachusetts. I attended the EMDR training in upstate New York in October of last year. I'm in private practice and I have been using the EMDR for a few months now. I really like it. My clients, most of them seem to love it, but I still feel like there's so much more to learn about it and so many more ways I could be helping people with it with more information. So I just thought I'd try this out and see what I can learn.
Fantastic, Barbara. That's great. Yes, Melissa, would you like to go
Well,
next?
my name's Melissa McCurry. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm actually at Sunset Beach, North Carolina right now. So I'm sitting out on the porch as we do this at the beach.
Lovely.
But I actually have been doing EMDR since I had the privilege of attending Linda's, one of her Sedona trainings. God, I guess it's been 2 years ago now. That's crazy. Doesn't seem like I've been using it that long, but I guess I have. So yeah, I happened to consult with Linda a week or two ago and she told me about this training. So I was thrilled to have the opportunity to learn more and loved Linda saying that y'all's goal is to get us where we're ready to train other people, because that is absolutely my professional goal, is to move into training other clinicians how to do this amazing modality.
That's awesome. And is there anything, either a population or a condition or a technique or something that you have interest in that you might like us to try to cover today?
I do a lot of sexual assault recovery, but I'm
Hmm.
also transitioning into a lot of medical trauma
Hmm.
recovery. And so I've been actually trying to bone up on my future scripting skills.
Hmm.
That's kind of what I worked with Linda on the other day. So I've been doing some more future scripting. And actually, I used the flashing technique with a client the other day.
Hmm.
And it was the client, Linda, by the way, that I talked to you about. I used the flash technique with her, and it was like night and day difference how she responded to that. So, yeah, definitely that. I like the future scripting. And I think where I need to work a little bit is on like the implanting the positive cognition at the end, like
Uh-huh.
the reprocessing and the tapping in the positive and future scripting type stuff, I think is really where I would like to strengthen my skills.
Terrific. Yeah, we'll cover some imaginal rehearsal, future template stuff, and yeah, always tapping in with alternating bilateral stimulation for.
Yeah, that's definitely the population, is like next time I go to the doctor, how do I keep myself from freaking out, white coat syndrome type stuff?
Yes,
So that sounds great. Looking forward to it. Thanks.
perfect. You bet. Who else is new that didn't introduce himself last time that would like to?
I'm from the Bay Area, California. I did an EMDR training last summer in Sedona with Linda. Prior to that, it's been an interest just personally for my own like therapeutic journey, and that's sort of how I became passionate about learning as much as I can. So I'm a school psychologist. I work in schools with kids, elementary through high school. Um, I think after the Sedona training, I wasn't sure how I was going to use EMDR in schools. It's a little trickier, but I've sort of found ways to use bits and pieces of it with like resourcing. And so I think what I want to get out of this today is working with kids and adolescents in a school setting, and which parts of EMDR I can kind of use efficiently and effectively, and with like limited times that I can meet with students.
That's perfect. That's very helpful. And that is exactly what the whole EMDR deconstructed movement is that Linda and I did not start, but we're perpetuating, which is that EMDR, although it is a complete or is thought of as a complete psychotherapy or a technique or a protocol, it also has many elements that have come from other things that synthesized into what we now know as EMDR that you can pop out and use as you like. And when you have short amount of time, or when you've got a population with a short attention span, or et cetera, or if you're not going to be doing heavy lifting trauma work, there's plenty to do within all of the aspects and facets of EMDR. So perfect. We'll get to that. Who else was not here that wants to say hi and what they might like to get today?
Hi guys, I'm Mary Alice.
Mary Alice.
Hello. Big EMDR fan for the past 14 years. And I've actually, Linda, I'm eager to, but I haven't followed you. I worked with Gerard for many years. And worked with a sister modality, accelerated resolution therapy. It's kind of like a hybrid. It's kind of a Dr. Parnell. It's all the above modalities, but this is my go-to and it's what I love. And funny thing I specialize in military combat trauma and sexual assault, and moved on, as somebody else said earlier, to medical trauma also. And the funny one that I cannot seem to push the needle population-wise is usually it's not related to a specific traumatic event. That would be a big T in our world, but driving. Maybe because I'm in the DC metro area, but I have people who are like, I won't get on the highway. I won't go 95. And I'm like, how did I work with so many combat or sexual assault or child? And the driving thing is I'm about 3 for 3 that I cannot get them back on the road comfortably. Mm-hmm. And so even with future rehearsal and future templates and the somatic, that is my weakest area, which seems like it should be a low-lying, easy one. But anyway, that's it for me. Nice to meet everybody.
I've had the same problem, Mary Alice, so I bet Linda will help us out. But I mean, I certainly have heard that all of this is, it's obviously all anxiety related, and there probably are both earlier things that we can point to, and when there isn't, then there's other stuff. So, but that's a great question. Thanks. Who else is here that wasn't here that wants to say hi and what they'd like?
Good morning, I'm Adriana. I'm visiting today from Southern California, and I attended the training with Linda last June in Sedona. So it was very just eye-opening and just helped me put a lot of the trauma education that I had taken and compiled just made sense to me. So a lot of things make a lot more sense to me since the training. And I'm a big fan of hers. I tell her that I use the imaginal resourcing probably every single day with my patients. I also work with a lot of Spanish speaking patients, and I use the imaginal resourcing and the bilateral stimulation. And even though I have not gotten to the EMDR, in itself, the imaginal resourcing with the bilateral stimulation helps lower the arousal in my patients so much that it's just profound. Like I have people of all ages, just crying, of the relief that they feel from these tools. And so I'm here to just learn more and absorb more information. I just find the potential and the healing with this modality incredible. And honestly, I'm just fascinated by it. I'm fascinated how much healing it can bring.
That's great. I think you're in good company. I think we're all fascinated by this, and we're all always ready to get on the train and see where we're going with each client each time. It's always can be a surprise in a good way.
Could we just go around and some people say who they are, and then if they got that Fiera worksheet, if they've used it with anybody, so the ones who haven't spoken yet.
Hi, I'm Nilda. I was able to use some of that after we met last time, and my clients found it very useful. Some of them really were able to process through and work through and get to a better place. But to what I think it was Melissa was talking about, I get really stuck with sort of people that have more significant trauma. And even when I was trying to use some of that, it didn't work as well. But I was able to use it, and I was so excited after that because it did open my mind up to not just following the protocol, which is what I've been doing for a long time.
I'm sorry, I should have said, and about, because I'm looking at you, Rebecca, next. I should have said as well, because if people have done what Gerard did last time, I would want to say what it is, and then just people can say if they've used it too. So were you able to use the buzzkill? What
Was
you
it
saw?
different? Was it different what you talked about? Is that yeah, so I'm sorry. Am I talking
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah.
something?
No, you're doing the right thing. I said the wrong thing, but you responded to the right, you gave the right answer.
Yeah, I think Linda's referring to, yeah, what last time we did a couple of short demonstrations with two people on Buzzkill, which is a way to desensitize one to unwanted behavioral triggers, and then replace it with a more adaptive behavior that you want to substitute it with. And so we did that a couple times. And yeah, so if anybody has any experience with having done that, you know, be very anxious to hear.
My name is Kate Haskell. I live in Washington State, and I have used the Buzzkill. And oh, you want me closer? Yes, ma'am. It's early. It's like 8 o'clock, and I worked till 5 yesterday. So you get what you get.
You're doing great.
Anyway, I have used the Buzzkill. The other thing, ironically, that I've been enjoying the most is the hand thing. That has been, I mean, I've used my hands, but that's been fabulous. People have had good experiences, and it's been fun.
Point of reference. So when I, and this could just be an Italian intervention that I was unaware that I was, using my hands. But when I am just keeping people very tight on from time 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, when we're desensitizing, or I should say uncoupling the positive feeling state with the unwanted behavior, as we drift down, each time I just ask them the question, so now is the strength of the intensity between the feeling state and the unwanted behavior, has it gone up, has it stayed the same, or has it come down? And there's just something about this that's a little bit easy. It also is a visual prompt for people to just give me that answer, because what I don't really want is to be doing standard protocol and having it be a free associative, everyone welcome moment. I'm just looking for, did it go up, did it stay the same, or come down? And that just really allows the protocol to go pretty quickly, and interestingly, to drift down pretty quickly to a low connection. So that's the hand thing. Glad you used it. Did people respond to it well?
Yeah, I had a couple of people who were like, wow, that feels so, and they do standard protocol with me, and they're like, that was really fast. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, and I'm not as tired.
Oh, okay.
So, compared to a full process.
Right. Fair enough. Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So, still playing, but it's good.
Thank you, Kate. Anybody else? Fiero, Buzzkill, experience?
I'll start talking. So my name is Rebecca Kofelt. I am from Indiana. I work in community mental health, and I'm in 4 different schools. I'm in a middle school and high school in a small town, and then I'm in 2 alternative schools, one that's K through 12 and one that's just high school. Linda wants me to talk because she was back out here in Indiana a couple weeks ago for a training at the company I work at, and I led and taught the group the buzzkill technique, and I have used it extensively with the kids that I work with. And I have had a lot of success. I have a kid who was self-harming almost every day and has not even had the urge to. Same kiddo has been hitting younger sister. She no longer has the urge to do that. And her older sister actually is diagnosed with OCD. And we are working, I've paired the OCD CBT of the ladder with desensitization. And we are working on desensitizing to those urges to do the compulsions. And we're on this was her 2nd week, and we worked on 2 last week. She came in and said she had no urges. She was winning over OCD with both of those this week. And then we targeted 2 other ones this past Thursday. So it has been honestly, it has changed the way I do therapy completely.
Wow.
Especially in the school setting because I can't always do the reprocessing. And it has been, I have had a lot of success with it. And I have to check Linda on the lady I did the cookie thing with. I got to see where she's at. But when we did a consultation, I did it with another clinician that was in there. And she went to the EMDR thing a couple weeks ago as well. And she said that she has not even had the urge to go and eat her cookies. She realizes she can, she is allowed to. She just doesn't feel like after a stressful day that she needs to do it. So
Awesome. What was her replacement behavior?
calling her grandma. She talked about how like she would drive off the interstate, like she knew the exit and she would go and do it. But she's not even felt the urge to like do that. And so she's called her grandma and she said it's been really good. So
Okay, all I want to say is I sent out a thing on Viera that mentioned cavelling, right? And so I was at this training and two of my girls were up there like making everyone proud, like the entire universe proud. So I was cavelling for you, feeling natchez for you. So thank you for saying that. It really was, it really was exciting. Thank you.
Oh, I'm Dana. I am from Westboro, Massachusetts. And I took the first training 2 years ago.
You went through this last time and you couldn't get it right. So just tell about what happened since the last time you were here.
All right. I took parts of it. I'm not going to lie. Bad student. I did not read what you sent out this time. And now I'm hitting myself because I didn't do that. But I have used parts of it and it is in my head. And listening to everybody, like all this gets me very excited and I go out and I rah. And then when we don't meet for a while, then I start going down again. And then I'll sit in a session with somebody and say, this is great. And then I look up at the time and say, can't do it now. And I tell them next week when you come back. So I've used parts of it and I like it.
That's good. And I think the unwanted behavior is the hitting yourself for not using it all. You're allowed to do what you want with it. You do what you want. And if it's helpful, let us know what it was so we can do it, you know? We're all trying to get better at this and figure out ways that we can use it. So it's not about, oh, you didn't read it, you're in trouble. It's all right. Well, I'm glad you're here.
And I could say something obvious, which is that when I learn a new technique, I will sometimes think in my head, okay, who on the caseload might benefit from this? And I might just make a little note ahead of time at the beginning when I'm looking at the cases. Maybe I'll introduce this. If they came in and they got into a huge fight or if they were triggered by some past trauma, obviously, we're not going to do that. But if there's just sort of an opportunity to, teach them something, if I think ahead of time I'm going to do this as opposed to waiting for it to present itself, I might just say, I learned something new. I think it might, it might benefit from that behavior we've talked about before. Would you like to try it? So that's just a way to sort of like, not let too much time pass before you get a chance to practice it.
I actually, before seeing all of this, I actually do some of this already. The like imaginal, like, well, if you could do, imagine you could do this, whatever. Sure. And with this client that I talked to Linda about, that's a very hard case. She is a very black and white thinker, but she continually comes back and she's like, yeah, I don't like that hypothetical stuff you do like that. Like, so she really pushes back against the imaginal tools. So just as you're going through this, if you can kind of speak to like those clients that are very black and white that see this as like, you're making stuff up, that's not going to happen. Like, how to kind of address that with them and get them to buy in a little bit more, I guess is my question. Or
Melissa, yeah, what I would say is what I do is I'm always reminding people that behaviors, there's a neurobiological basis under all of this. And if we're trying to get them to behave in a different way or to, get to a different place, they have to rehearse it so that their nervous system can become used to it. And if they like sports metaphors, if you want to get the golf ball or the baseball to go to a specific place, you have to, in your mind's eye, see it go there first. And that's any coach of any sporting thing will always say, you got to see it there first. You have to imagine getting it there. And then you actually, connect with the ball and you put it there. And it's all just based on that step. So it's not about like, oh, let's imagine, we're in a meadow and hearts and rainbows and you're riding a unicorn. It doesn't have to be that weird. It can just be, we're training your nervous system to respond differently. And in order to do that, we're just going to engage the nervous system, imaginally. It's the same. It's exactly the same. I don't know, Linda, what would you add to that? That probably wasn't adequate.
Well, I would always say, well, what was the person there to see you for, right? I mean, because you always have to tie it back to what do they want, right? If they want something and you have an idea and they say, well, that's not going to work, that's not going to work, then you do the role play, switch places. Okay, let's see how this works. I'll hold the cappers. You keep throwing me all these ideas that I'm going to say no to, right? Because that's what it is, right? You could do that, or you could ask, whenever anybody says to me, well, that sounds stupid, I say, yeah, it does, doesn't it? But it sounds so queer or corny or this or that. And I say, okay, so what? I'm like, you want to try it or you don't want to try it? Because I think it's going to be helpful. And that's really what we're saying. We're here to influence. We're not here to manipulate. We're here to influence and to say, look, if this is what you want, I have a way for you to get it, right? And it's not like, oh, Linda thinks this. It's like, this is science. Right? This is science. When you talk about, imaginal resources, what you're talking about is building neural networks and then reinforcing neural networks. And the nervous system doesn't know if it's real or if it's Memorex. It responds as if it's happening. So it's not like hypothetical situations. I mean, you can use this for what I'm going to talk about today is basically saying when somebody comes in and they really fucked it up with their boyfriend or their girlfriend or their mother or their father or their best friend again. Right. So what are we going to do with that? Well, let's do a relational do-over, right? So what happened, right? You have to get, like, I sent out worksheets for you folks, right? That says the person to do before they come in. But what you're going to do with them, regardless of whether or not they did the worksheet, is ask the same questions, right? Okay, so what is it that you want? Well, I want to be able to get along better because this person is really in charge of whether I get money or I don't get money, right? So and what else? So if you were going back to the DBT skills, is this a dear man thing or is this a give thing, right? Or is this somebody that you were trying to keep an intimate relationship with? Or is this somebody that you're negotiating with, like in a job or a school situation? So then you'd say, okay, so if you want to do it better, I have some ways to do that. First off, let's talk about what's missing. Well, what happened this time? And does it seem familiar, right? Has it happened in any other relationship? And if it is, you point out, okay, well, do you want to do it differently? If the answer is no, go do something else. That's not, that's not going to be helpful. So the buy-in is really for what they come in with. What is their what is their problem of the day? And what is their goal in therapy, right? Like, what are their goals in therapy? That's what I was going to say. Go ahead, G.
As I'm listening to you guys talk, I do a lot of couples therapy, and it would be very interesting to take this into a couples therapy. So I just wanted to kind of.
Well, the other thing is to do it to have them do imaginally what they think, the way they predict it's going to happen, right? So you just go, this is what happened. This is the last argument we had. You do it with a couple, right? This is exactly what happened for me, and the other person does the same thing, right? So where is their similarities, and like did they see the situation the same? And if not, okay, what are their perceptions? Their perceptions are different of what happens. So you can't really do it again as a role play until you have them do it differently, imaginally, right? They can't imagine it ever going. If you can't imagine it being different, it can't be different, right? And basically, that's why I say, like, if you're going to do the AAI with people, the adult attachment interview, I think both people should have tappers in their hands, right? Or one of those automatic ones, because I think the alternating bilateral stimulation keeps people grounded, and there's a physical stimulus that keeps you from dissociating, right? And it's also, it brings arousal levels down. So anything that you're doing, you can add tapping to it. And if it gets too much, you say, stop the tapping, right? Go ahead, Jay, sorry.
Myself. Sorry, I was having some problem before, so I had to come out and come back in. So I apologize for that. It looked a little bit goofy. So hello, I'm
a little closer. Thank you.
Okay. 100 years ago, I trained with Laurel Parnell. She told me I was going to kill all the patients. I didn't use her, and then I couldn't use her. Or that's how I heard that. I'm sorry, that's how I interpreted it. That's how I interpreted it. And then I met Linda. I trained in Sedona in 21, I think it was. It was amazing. And she told me I could be a therapist who does emdr, and that worked really well for me. And so the whole idea of deconstructing works really well. I did try doing Fiero with 2 of my patients who I didn't have the exact script there. One, I figured, okay, she's really stuck. So I either shake her or do Fiero. So I did Fiero, and it worked really, really well for her. But I didn't have her stand on the table and shout that she could do it. But it helped to really organize and get in touch with the stronger parts of herself, and did it through her body, which she often is in her head. And it really was amazing. And when I was doing it with clients as well as with myself, what I noticed is how it is presented, and I guess what I think and what I say, because when I did it for myself, the first event was great. And then it brought up a whole lot of memories that I didn't want. And the same thing happened with the client. So I don't know if I was transferring that onto her. And then I found another event. And I was with my partner, and he showed me a picture where I climbed a mountain, and I got to the top of the mountain. The picture was, I did it. I said, oh, that's exactly what Linda was talking about. So I really look forward to hearing more and other people's experiences. I'm really glad to be here today.
I think it's important, Cheryl, that you said that about other memories coming up where maybe they're not positive. And I think that's why if people have the container, that's what you're doing, and you're not tapping for long periods of time until you see if that's helpful. Right. So just, keeping the sets a little shorter and really going for the, okay, so we're just staying at this particular time. That's what we're doing right now, is that time when you got to the top and you realized you did it. Okay. So pay attention. What emotions come up? Where do you feel that in your body? And then if anything else comes up, go into the container, but just keeping it short for that particular thing. What I like the most, it's Triumph, Fiero, whatever we're calling it. It's the only reason we're not using Pride is because it has a little bit of a negative connotation with the 7 deadly sins. So that's why I'm calling it these other 2 things. But Triumph really is the resource, right? It is that I triumphed over adversity. I took on difficult situations. It's not just that I won the lottery. It's that I did these things. It was effortful. I did them, and it came to fruition that I got what I wanted, which is get to the top of the mountain, or, nobody thought I could do it, but I knew I could do it. And you kind of just dip into that confidence that you were able to do it at one point. And again, we said this last time about the, depression, trauma, all of that keeps us from remembering all of those things. So we're either creating new ones, or we're getting the ones that were, people had these experiences, and we're reinforcing those experiences and getting people to feel what it feels like in their body, because a concept of, a label of something is not the experience. When you say, like, my grandmother's my comfort figure, that doesn't help me unless I can close my eyes and feel that and feel it in my body, or if I could get to the top of the mountain. When you look at that picture, what do you remember? You have people bring that picture in, tap it in. I mean, what was the experience? Does that help you remember? If it doesn't, you don't need to bring the picture, but it seems to me that was helpful for you. No?
Thanks.
What I'd like to talk about, I think, is to do that Fiero one. Like, I just gave you this worksheet, and the worksheet, what I like about it is it has the DBT skills on it. You do not have to use these scripts. You don't have to use these worksheets. Read it, see what you think. If you learn that way, great. That's why I gave it to you. It's not a script. It's me and AI messing around to get you a script that is something close to what you might want to do, right? So I put it in, and AI gives me stupid stuff, and I say, that's a really stupid thing. Let's try this. And then so AI's learning what I want it to do, and I want you to have that. And if it works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, do something else. That's really it. What I'd like to do is whatever comes up today. I mean, I'm a Gestalt therapist, so all we go is where the energy is. Right. So people have some energy around doing some imaginal resourcing. People, I think the buy-in part is something that I would do a role play with you, Melissa, or Gerard could do a role play with you, because basically it's, how do you dip into, this is something that I think is going to be helpful for you. And if you look at me in a certain way that triggers, like, you think I'm stupid, or you think that this isn't going to work, or you're a pain in my ass, whatever it is, whatever that is, I have to, like, kind of reach into that. Why is that happening? Right? It's like, okay, well, if this is my stuff, okay, I got to put it in the container for a minute. But if it's the client stuff, that's what you got to deal with. Like, okay, so it seems like everything that I've offered today, you told me that it was stupid or corn or whatever, skibbity, whatever words kids are using today, or, people use. And I say, it all seems like that. So is there something else you want to do? I mean, because what else? I mean, there's nothing else to do when somebody is, I would say, oppositional to all of your suggestions. Either do a role play with them of, okay, so if we switch places right now, what would you say to me? because I've done all I know to sell this one particular thing that I think will be helpful and you don't. But it's not the first thing, right? So it's like it's not the first thing you have said, like, no, you're not going to give it a try. And that's really go back to, if people are mandated for treatment, you have to find some way in, right? And that way in is, do you want to sit here and look at me or do your homework? But you have to be here and I have to be here. So you let me know what we're going to do, right? That's at the end of it. I mean, we have lots of we have lots of honey before that, right? To say like, okay, this is what are you here for? How can I help? Let's do that today. And as a matter of fact, what I find is asking people when they come into my office is, what are we doing today? That's what I say. I don't let them say that to me because I'm not leading this, right? So where's the energy today? If somebody comes in and says, the reason I wrote this up is because that's what happened. Somebody came in and said, yeah, I fucked it up again. I fucked it. I did. It's the same thing. It's like we have the same fight, her and her husband, over and over again. It's like, okay, so let's do it differently, right? What do you mean we can't do it differently? It's already over. No, this is about the 17th time that you told me it's happened. So what do you think? Could we do something? Maybe a suggestion like this? Like, could we imagine it and figure out what pieces led to it being exactly the same? And do you want it to be different? Because that's the big questions, right? If they don't, this is just us saying, well, we have this great thing. People are saying, well, we don't care about that great thing. So if anybody has something that they want to do, I'm very willing to do a session. Gerard did, and if you want to do another buzzkill, that's fine. That's it. But I would like to do something where we activate the triumphant self to start, right? And then I usually say that, if you're doing something that's older, something that's older that there's some hurt in it, you want to get your comfort figure, nurturing figure, whatever. There's plenty. I want to say one more thing about the ideal other. We can always invent an ideal other, and you don't have to give anybody credit for that. Okay. So if you go back for ideal other, it comes out of Moreno's work in psychodrama, right? That's the first time it's used. So it's not like, oh, I'm stealing EMDR stuff from this person. Ideal person has always been around. It's like, okay, well, if they did exactly what you want them to do and said what you want them to say, what would that look like? Right. Well, that's a hypothetical. That'll never happen. I want to know what it would feel like if it did happen, right? Is that something that you're interested in doing, right? So those are the kind of things that I say to my client. They're saying, no, it's never going to be different. Well, of course, it's never going to be different. I agree with you. It is never going to be different, right? Because if you don't have a neural network of the future being anything but it is today, this is what it is, right? So if you're happy here, I don't think you should pay me. I think you should stop, this is not working, right? So I think that those kind of things, I'm really able to say, like, it's not confrontational. It's more, here's the realistic, here's what's realistic. I can help you with certain things, but you're in charge. You're going to decide what's helpful for you and what's not helpful. And if you're going to tell me that nothing's helpful because it all sounds stupid, you got to find a new therapist, right? That's it. So having said that, does anybody have something they want to work on, or you want to bring your worst client? We can do something like that in a session. We could do, go ahead, Nell, you got something to say? You want to do something?
Well, interestingly, when we started this and you're like, oh, we're going to make trainers out of all of you. I was like, like major kind of, I guess fraud, like sort of, I mean, I've been a clinician for over 30 years. I've trained and taught and ran programs and inpatient. I mean, I've done it, and I still don't think I'm enough. I still don't. So when you were like, and I've done trainings, and I learned EMDR over 20 years ago, and I still don't think I'm enough. So I guess that's one of the things that was really in the moment when you said, is that what you're talking about?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I'm saying again, it's wherever the energy is where I want to go, because I have stuff that we can talk about, but actually I would rather it come organically, right? Like if that's what you want to work on, I'm happy to work on that with you. I think that would be good. I think it'd be a good use of time. And it doesn't have to be the whole set, right? It doesn't have to be 3 hours worth. We could do some work with that.
Please not.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting, like, to be the trainer, because do you do group or do you do just individual?
I've done it all. Right now, I'm just in my own private practice, and I work independently.
You've been a trainer for a long time, is all I'm saying. You've trained
in the past, yes.
But I mean, you've trained in group. Whenever you do group therapy, you're definitely, there's a trainer role to it, right? And so I just want to make sure that I have it right, that you're saying you just feel it. You said not enough. I feel not enough. Do you know what that's about?
Probably, are we going like for early stuff that can come up?
Just if you know, do you have an idea of what it's
I have
about?
an idea. Like, I moved to the United States when I was 5, and those years of having to acclimate, there was a lot of not being accepted and being different,
Absolutely.
and I guess not being what everybody else was, and trying really hard to sort of be what everybody
You
else
want to do
was.
a session with me?
Sure.
I'd love to do a session with you. How about I get everybody else to turn your cameras off and you mute yourself, and we'll go for whatever. We'll see what happens. How's that? Okay. So first off, how is this for you? Is this going to be doable, you think?
It'll be doable. A little nerve-wracking, but doable.
I'm only saying because the people are here, right? There's people here watching. Is that something that's going to be a problem? Because we could put them in the container, or I mean, if we were like in person, we would be in a group, right? And we'd be in a fishbowl, and then you could say, well, I want them to close their eyes, or I want them to turn around, right? You could say whatever you want. I don't know if they do it, but can we put them in a container? Can we get rid of them?
Sure. I mean, it doesn't bother me that they're here because it's a training. So I feel like it's okay.
Is it training? Okay, good. That was fabulous. Okay. All right. So, you have an idea of what it is. It's about not being enough and you think it comes from the early thing. So I think that we'll do triumphant self first. Have you done that?
I have not.
Okay, so here's what I'd like you to do. This is what I would teach people. This is for, if we're doing it online, I usually go, this is the butterfly thing, right? And you can do collarbones. You don't have to do that. You can do this. You can do it on, you can do it on your thighs. The only thing I'm going to ask you, since you're on camera, I'm going to ask you to do it like this. So just so people can see, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And are you comfortable closing your eyes? If not, you can just pick a spot where you won't be distracted either.
Close my eyes.
Okay. So if it's okay, what I'm going to ask you to do is do 3 breaths with me. Okay.
With my start now with my eyes closed.
Yeah, with your eyes closed. And I'm going to keep my eyes open, but I'm going to have you take a slow, deep breath in through your nose. And with this deep breath in, you're going to hold it. You're going to hold it. And then you're going to extend the exhalation. And I want you to feel your feet on your floor. You can feel the back of your chair. Just push a little bit back on it. Feel supported by the chair, and then feel your feet on the floor, supported by the floor. And now I'm going to ask you a question. Do you have a container, like an image of a container that we could use?
I do.
Okay, what is it?
It's a big bank vault on top of a mountain.
Okay, so I want you to picture that big bank vault. Tell me when you have it up.
Okay.
Okay, and you have an idea that you're not allowed in there, no parts of you. You can put any emotions, any memories, anything like that, but no parts of you go in there. Is that your understanding of it? Okay, good.
Yes.
So this is yours. Nobody can get to it. I want you to take anything and everything that might be keeping you from being completely present here. And I'm going to have you put it all in that bank vault. And I'm going to say one of 2 things. So if you need help, let me know. And if you don't and you get done, let me know.
Okay.
Put it all in? Okay. And how does it close?
I just close it and lock it up.
Close it, lock it up, and I'm going to have you just look at it, make sure everything's in there secure. And once it is, I want you to do this as mindfully as possible. I'm going to have you turn around. In your imagination, you're going to walk away from this. And I want you to pay attention to what happens in your body as you get further away, everything securely away. Only you can get to it, and you can get to it anytime you need to. Tell me what you notice in your body as you move away from it.
Being a little bit more relaxed.
Where do you feel that relaxed? Little more relaxed, sorry.
In my core.
Okay, so just
a little bit in my shoulders.
Okay, I'm sorry, I interrupted this. So just focus on your core and your shoulders. I'm going to have you take a deep breath in. I'm going to have you begin the tapping. Focusing on the core and the shoulders. A little more relaxed as you keep moving further and further away. I'll have you stop the tapping. Better, worse, same.
A little better.
Okay, so what I'm going to have you now is just bring up an image of that place where you feel just okay. It doesn't have to be, oh, this is the best, most peaceful place, just a place where you feel all right. And you can tell me when you have that image.
In my body or just in general?
Well, yeah, I would like you to bring up an image of the like comfortable place or peaceful place. And if you didn't have one, I would just say that's all I would say is a place
I
where you
have it.
feel, yeah, you have it. Okay. What makes this such a good place for you?
Just open space and clean air and the ocean, the sounds of the ocean waves, which are very relaxing and soothing.
Okay, so I want you just to listen to the waves, notice the open space, and notice what emotions come up here for you. And what do you notice?
I feel peaceful. I feel secure.
And where do you feel that in your body?
Just feel like a kind of overall kind of letting go, like a heaviness, but a heaviness of just my body relaxing and grounding itself into the earth.
Grounding it. Oh, that's lovely. Do you say grounding itself to the earth?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So notice that grounding yourself to the earth, that feeling of letting go. And you said it's a comfortable heaviness?
Yeah.
Okay. So just focus on that. All the things that make this such a good place for you. Let's take them in and give you a minute. And again, everything that makes it such a good place for you, the expansive open space, sound of the waves, the letting go. Maybe notice that heaviness, feeling grounded to the earth. And I'll have you take a deep breath in and just begin the tapping. Everything that's good about this place, your place. You think this is a place that we could bring up rather easily if we needed to, the image of this?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to have you stop tapping. Just take one last look around. Everything that's good, knowing you can bring this place up anytime you want. Again, with or without me, right? You can bring this place up. All right. So I'm just going to have you let go of the comfortable place. Just that image, just let that go. Take a deep breath in. And just let it go, knowing it's yours. We can come back anytime. Now we're going to ask you is, have you ever been comforting to a child? You
Yes.
yourself as an adult? Who would that be? Can you picture a time when you were comforting to like a 4 or 5?
My daughters.
Your daughters? Okay. Can you picture one of them at about 5 years old? Is that right before? Is that kindergarten, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kindergarten. Okay. Which one you got? Which daughter?
My oldest.
What's her name?
Kylie.
Kylie. Okay. So a time when you and Kylie were together and she wasn't feeling well. I don't know whether it's physical or whether she feels emotionally sad, whatever she feels. But you're going to comfort her and I'm going to tell me when you have that image up. Here's the question. How do you know she needs you right now?
She started a new school and she was really scared to go.
Okay. And so was she in your bedroom or you in her bedroom? Were you downstairs? Do you remember?
Images, we were in the backyard and she was in her school uniform and she was quite sad.
Okay. So I want you just to look at her. She's quite sad. So you know she needs you. And what do you feel? What emotions come up for you?
Sadness.
Sadness. I want you just to take a deep breath in. Just look at her for a moment. You can feel your sadness. What are you going to do for her right now?
Tell her she's okay. Give her a hug.
Okay, can you do that and begin the tapping? She's okay. She's there looking unhappy, scared, sad. What is it?
Probably a little of all of it.
Okay, so would you take a deep breath in? Can you take her hand, or both of her hands? What would you say to her? What did you say to her? Or what would you say to her? Either's fine.
It's okay to be scared. You got this. And I'm going to be here for you.
Yeah, so take a deep breath into that. You got this. Are you going to be there for her?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'd like you to stop the tapping just for a moment. And if it's okay, I'd like you to bring up one more thing. This is the time when you felt like you put in a lot of effort for something, but it really paid off. And I'm just going to give you a couple of examples. I know you know them already, but basically, some people talk about their degree. Some people talk about a half marathon. Some people talk about a 5K. Some people talk about kickboxing, whatever it is for you, that where you really felt, I got this. It's tough, but I got it. You have a time?
Yes.
And what was that?
Kickboxing.
Okay. Woo! Okay, so kickboxing, tell me a bit about it. What's so good about this for you? How did you do it?
When I first started, I didn't know what I was doing, and I felt like I just felt really silly, and couldn't get out of my head. And now I do it pretty effortlessly, but with effort, if that makes sense, because it is a mind-body connection.
Sure. So I want you to picture it when, like, one of the first times when you realized, like, I got it. And tell me when you have that.
Okay. I got it.
Okay. So where do you feel it in your body?
I feel kind of calm and soothed all over. I feel like a calmness in my shoulders and in my gut.
Okay. So just notice that, and you're going to begin the tapping. Something where you felt silly, you didn't think you were going to be able to get it, and here you are. Noticing that you got it. I'm going to have you stop for 1 minute. Now, I'd like you to do is I'd like you to bring up, if it's okay, and so you'd say no to anything I say, right? You know that. Yes, I'd like you to bring up that time when you were 5 and you felt different. New country, new school, I'm sure new everything. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, tell me what was the hardest for you?
There's this time when I was also the baby, so I was the youngest, and we were coloring with my cousins who were here. And everybody got to use the whole crayons, and I got the broken ones because I was going to break them.
And what did you feel in your body?
Sadness.
Okay, so I want you to pay attention to that sadness. I want you just to begin the tapping. Pay attention to the sadness in your body. Now I want you to stop just for a second. And you remember when you went over to your daughter? Can you bring that person to this 5-year-old who's not allowed to play with the crayons because she might break them? Maybe you can tell, maybe you can give her that whole 64 pack or whatever that big, I forget what the big, we didn't get them, but can you bring her to her?
Yes.
All right, tell me when you're together.
We're together.
Okay, so you said a few things, and I want to know if this still fits, if it would fit for the same. So when your daughter went to the new school, you knew she was sad. Can you see how sad the little girl is? Yourself at 5, can you see how sad she is?
Yes.
Okay, so I want you to do whatever it is that you think would be helpful, and I want you to begin the tapping. So in the same spirit, and if it's the same thing where you say, you got this, and I'm going to be here for you. If it's something else, that's fine. Just notice. What does the little girl want?
To be seen.
Okay. Can you do that for her? Okay. Tell her what you see. You don't have to say it out loud. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. What's the little girl doing?
Listening.
Does she believe you?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you this one more time. I think I already said it, but I just want to say it again. The thing that you said to your daughter, I'm going to be there for you. Is that true for this situation as well?
Yes.
Can you tell her that? And maybe tell her all the things she's going to do that she's going to succeed at? All the people she's going to help? She know anything about kickboxing? What do you notice?
She seems to be growing up.
Okay. Is that okay for her to grow up?
Yeah.
Okay. You watch that? Can you see her first success? What do you notice?
Been a lot of accomplishments and a lot of wonderful things that have happened.
Okay, so wherever you are right now, at whatever age she is, I want you to go, stop. I don't want you to go to the next one. Go to whatever this challenge or whatever this first accomplishment was, the one you're on right now. Tell me when you have that up. What was that?
Want me to tell you?
Yeah, there's at so many of them, but I want to hear the one you're at now.
I'm at Smith getting my
Okay.
master's in social work.
So tell me
Smith
that,
College.
what happens? Do you
I mean,
walk? I'm sorry, are you commencing or are you in school right now?
I'm just on the campus meeting just with beautiful friends
You made new friends?
and from everywhere, and really feeling smart.
What does it feel like to feel smart amongst these beautiful friends?
Alive,
And where do you feel that?
connected, grounded, part of something bigger
Where do you feel that in your body?
in my heart.
Okay, so just focus on that. And if more memories come, that's fine. Just noticing. What comes up? You can keep tapping. What comes up?
Did you say what comes up?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Just my family and how great they are, how supportive my immediate family, and I have a great wife and a great kids, and just feeling happy with whenever something negative comes up that happened. I'm just like, yeah, but all these other beautiful things are here. That's what I'm noticing.
I take you out of that just for a second. I'm going to bring you back to the 5-year-old with the broken crayons. I want you to stop tapping just for a second. And I want you to bring her some new crayons. And I want you to tell her all about what she's going to be able to do. And just begin the tapping and take all the time you need. You don't have to tell me what you're saying to her. Just want you to bring her the crayons, whatever box. I've heard some people say broken crayons still color, but you tell her whatever. I think she gets the 64s.
I'm telling her that her life is going to be as colorful as this box.
Beautiful. You should draw a picture of her first success.
Uh-huh.
Can you color with her?
Yes.
What do you notice? Take your time. I know that you don't have to stop to tell me. You're processing, it's fine. What you noticing?
It's a lot of love.
Okay, where do you feel that in your body?
Everywhere. I feel really calm.
Really calm? Okay.
Grounded, relaxed. And I just felt a lot of love kind of pouring in to that little girl and back to me.
Okay, so just one more thing. So when you're sitting with your little girl there, can you see in her eyes that she thinks that maybe she's not enough? Can you do something about that?
I think she sees that. I know she sees that. I can see it in her eyes that she knows that she is enough.
And that she belongs?
Yes.
You can throw this one in. She's a delight if you ask me. Now I'm going to ask you to do is that 5-year-old that was scared that you comforted. I want that whole memory. I want you to bring that whole memory into your heart. However you do that, if you need help, let me know. If you can do that on your own, tell me when you're done.
Memory of my daughter.
No, you're a 5-year-old.
My 5-year-old.
You as a 5-year-old. And bring her to your heart. I think your 5-year-old daughter is in your heart. Yes, I'm just reminding you of your 5-year-old self.
Okay.
Can you ask her if there's anything she needs right now?
I'm giving her a hug.
I say this to my clients all the time. Anything you say to this child, it has to be the truth. It has to be the truth. You have to be trustworthy to this kid. You feel you can do that?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm going to have you, are you okay to stop the tapping? You can keep doing what you're doing. You okay to stop tapping? Okay.
Yeah, I can stop.
Okay, so you give her a hug.
Yes.
Invited her to stay with you. All right, now I'd like you to bring up a time when you felt really like you weren't enough. The last time, the most recent time, whether it was in your office or somewhere else. And I want you to tell me when you have that.
Okay.
Okay, so what do you notice now? What do you see as the image?
I guess I just see me kind of feeling a little lost and kind of and not being able, not knowing what to do or how to help. It's gone back to my profession, my work, like some of my most challenging clients, and feeling like I wasn't enough for them and I should find somebody else for them to work with.
Okay, so I want you to begin the tapping. And if any of those memories of all the accomplishments come up, that's fine, you can let them. If this is a younger self that doesn't feel like she's enough, I want you to talk to her as the adult. But if it's the adult, I want you to tell me that.
It feels like it's the adult.
Okay. So like the adult sitting there, and the adult is questioning competence. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Notice your face change. What just happened?
It's the adult, but maybe not as old as me.
Okay.
Maybe a younger adult.
Okay. Is there a particular time when something like that happened, or you're just seeing it as younger?
I mean, uh, academics has always been, I guess, college years have always been like more, it doesn't come easy to me. So I always had to work harder. So I always kind of felt like I was going to fail. I always felt like I was going to fail. Sometimes I believed if I thought I was going to fail, I was going to pass. So I think it's kind of.
It's like a superstition?
Yeah.
My husband does that. Don't jinx it.
Exactly.
Jinx it. Okay, so I did figure that like I might fail. So you're saying, okay, if I picture myself failing, it might do me good, something like that?
Yes.
Okay. And how helpful has it been? Good, bad, yes?
I don't do that. I don't do that anymore.
Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to stop tapping for a second. I want you to bring up the last time a client came to you and said, thank you. And it's something that maybe you didn't even know that you did. Somebody said thank you, or you got a letter, a card, something like that. You got one?
Mhm.
I want you to read it, and I want you to tap, and I want you to tell me if you believe it.
I believe it.
What do you notice?
Just a lightness and a kind of an opening.
And now I want you to think of another time when that happened. When it doesn't have to be anything big, just something you're like, ooh, that worked. And a time when you did something that was really difficult, like Smith College, or something that was really difficult that you thought, okay, well, if I think I'm going to fail, I might not fail.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any other word any other sentence that could do the same thing that does.
Yes.
What is it?
I can do hard things.
As evidenced by. You
Everything
just
I've done.
walk out. As evidenced by. And now I'm going to have you stop tapping for a second. And I want you to picture yourself. You're doing the session with me. You're the therapist. You just agreed to do it. What do you notice?
Just what's coming up for me?
Yep.
A calmness.
Ooh, tap, 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 tap. I thought you were going to say, oh, this woman's too fucked up. I can't work with her. She can't be my client.
I'm feeling a calmness.
Right, you feel it? Yeah.
I feel a connection.
Yeah.
Feeling present.
Okay. I'm going to have you stop the tapping just for a second. I just want you to check in. You should feel your feet on your floor, the support under and behind you. I want you to put both hands over your heart just for a moment. And I just want to remind you what you brought into your heart today. The little girl who felt maybe she wasn't enough. Maybe, and you don't have to do this, but I usually ask for some kind of a commitment to her. I think one of the things is hearing you say you're going to fail. What do you notice?
It hasn't been proven to date, and it won't be. I'm not going to fail. I got this.
Or if I do fail, then what?
It's okay. I'll learn.
Okay, so that's what I want you to tap. I only want to talk about failing. It's the best thing I do. I just hope you don't do the same fail, right? You don't have the same failings, right? I think that's how we learn, right? If there's not a lot of failures, it means you ain't learned a lot. And I'll have you stop the tapping. And again, just check in. Is there anything else that we need to do? Anything else that would be helpful?
Feel good.
Okay. Okay. So whenever you're ready to feel your feet on your floor, button your chair, feel that push back a little bit. And I want you to do this one with me. This is a huff breath. You know, huff breath? We do it while seated. So I'm going to have you take a deep breath in and out with us.
Like that?
No, huff. Yeah, huff, huff. What do you notice?
Silence.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, you can gently come back into your room. I'm still here. Nobody else is on your, I don't think anybody else is on your camera, but I am. Hi there.
Hello. It's quite a journey.
Anything surprising for you?
I guess all of it. I wasn't quite sure, Yeah, it was, I've done a lot of talking about the crayons and a lot of work. I've never done that work.
Wait,
And it felt,
it's in a different part of the brain, right? And it's
yes,
not in the body. And when you talk about it, it's like, okay, we're trying to make sense of it, but there is a sense to it. We have sensory stuff that we can bring up and move through, right? You can't process it. You can talk about the story, but the process is really experiential.
100%. And yeah, I feel it. I feel different. I feel a different connection to that part. And I'm laughing because when we started and, I'm always looking at like I'm doing something wrong. And in the beginning, I was turning around and I'm like, I laughed because, and because I'm always, one of the reasons I get concerned about talking in big spaces, I'm going to make a mistake, right? The whole thing.
I
And
hope
now
so.
I really don't care.
Oh, beautiful. That's right. So
That was
what?
powerful. That was very powerful.
That's wonderful. Anything you would have done differently or anything you wish I hadn't done? And by the way, I mean that for real. Like if there's something that was not good for you, I would like you to say in the moment, but I know you couldn't in the moment if there was. So if there's something I would be more helpful, you would let me know.
I don't think so. I think I just in the beginning I didn't understand the direction, and that's why like I physically turned. And then I realized to myself that it's, so it's in your, like, do it in your head.
Yeah, so I probably should have said that to you. We're going to do an imaginal behavioral rehearsal thing. That would have been more helpful,
And I mean, and I know that. So I was, I kind of brought myself there, but that I get, other than just sort of it's imaginal, everything was perfect. Like I really, I don't know how you went where you went. And
Oh, I
part of me,
followed you. That's how we got there. I follow you.
because it was great. And part of me, another, the other part of me was thinking, can I do this? This is amazing. So you did great.
Well, this is what I'm saying to you. When I said I don't think I said it clearly enough. I said, okay, so I'm going to ask you to be my therapist in this, right? And what did you notice? That was what I don't know if I did. I don't know if I got that question off right. So I'm not sure if you answered it.
I just noticed the connection. I noticed a grounded, present connection. Like we were in the same space.
So you would be my therapist.
Yes.
If need be. Beautiful, beautiful. No, I think that's perfect, right? I think that's the perfect answer because it's like, okay, well, Linda will be a hard client, but I will do it.
Yes.
Is it all right if I bring everybody back in and we'll
Yes,
see if
thank you.
anybody, I
Thank you.
just want to, I want to say thank you so much for doing it. It is a big deal to do this. And I know it's vulnerable and it's not like you're showcasing your talents. It's like you're being vulnerable so other people can learn. So thank you. And thanks for doing it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Like when I would do a training, I said, let's get a big hand. And I say, now let's get one for Nilda. That's what I'm doing here. So any questions? I appreciate you doing that for us. Thank you. Any questions, comments? Not furthering therapy, but if you have a meeting with Nilda, you're not going to ask questions of Nilda about her. You can ask about the experience, just not about what was processed. Kate,
I have a question for you, Linda. So when working on that younger version of self, is that applicable for like teens? Maybe like even as young as like 14? Like, can you do that?
If they have the experience of being comforting to a younger child, that's what she had. She was talking about her daughter as a 5-year-old. So she was able to do it. So if they have that experience, you can call on that experience. But if they don't have it, I mean, it would be totally imaginal of what would you do if you had this, you know? So I think that if you really want to get like, what I did with Nilda was because she had it, I just brought that neural network up, but you could create one. And, you know, a lot of people who play with baby dolls, you know, when they're young, and like, that's one of the things that you can see, like if they're in your office and if you have baby dolls and you can see how they treat, right? How they would treat the kid. And then you can see how they're treated right at home. So
yeah, I was wondering if you could also do like a peer-to-peer, like how would you comfort a peer that would be in that situation?
I generally say, if you love this person or you even like this person, what would you do, right? Like you put your best friend in there, like what would you say to your best friend if this happened? And that's when people say, well, that's not what happens. But you're saying like, you know, if you were somebody that cared about you, what would you say? So if they don't, and you know, if they don't have an experience of them being able to care for themselves, well, then yes, what was it like to care for your little sister or for your best friend or absolutely.
Linda, I work with a lot of single folks in New York City. I use their pets often to bring up nurturing feelings. Could you use that in this situation? Because they often don't.
I didn't hear what you said, Shelley. Bring up who? To bring up what? I missed the first part of it.
Oh, their pets. Their pets.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And they're the ones that know us best, right? You know, I just had to put my dog down, but my dog understood how perfect I was. Yes, absolutely. There's comfort and protection, either one. You know, sometimes they'll stand, not mine or Gerard's dog. We have dogs that really aren't going to eat anybody, but if it's for comfort, you know, you're going to do the comfort aspect and the protector aspect. So absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about, I was trying to follow, there were longer periods of tapping, and there wasn't associative stuff. You were keeping it really tight. But there
was a part that I didn't keep it tight and I did it on purpose. And when she was processing something and tears are coming down, I'm not going to interrupt that because I know she has the skills to stay stable and I don't need to know what she's processing. I need to know she's processing, right? Sure. And I need, like for any client, you would need to know that, you know, you can stop it at any time and say, I'm just going to take a breath in, let go of everything. What do you notice now? And if the person, you know, if it takes long, like if somebody's dissociative or whatever, can you feel your feet on the floor? You feel your butt in the chair? And all of these things are just things that I do ordinarily. So it's not like, oh, there was an emergency. You went somewhere I couldn't, you know. Okay, go ahead.
Sure, I didn't ask my question well. That there was just kind of continuous tapping with only a couple times did you tell her to stop tapping. Is that because you know how stable she can be, or if that's part of the Fiero?
I think that you're trying to keep, so for the resource piece of it, keep it very tight in the resource if that's all you're doing. But what we started with was the 5-year-old that came from another country that felt like she wasn't enough. So we had to go there, and that's a process, right? There's a process piece of, and that's when the tears, right? And I always say I'll say good tears or bad tears, but it didn't matter to me whether she's processing, so I just let her go. If it's your client and they want to say something, that's fine. But I mean, I think at the end of it, that's when you have the narrative, right? Like, because you heard Nilda say, like, no, I didn't have that experience before. I just talked about it. And that's what I say about talk therapy with trauma. you're just talking about why you're not getting better, right? You're talking about the same thing over and over again, and it doesn't change because it's in a total, not only in a different part of the brain, it's in another hemisphere and, in the top layer where that ain't where trauma is, right? So we want to activate the right hemisphere and we want to bring on it's the embodied hemisphere, the relational hemisphere, the emotional hemisphere. We want people there, even if they're not comfortable. You titrate it so they can be there for just a little bit. Did I answer it clear? I know it. Kate, when I start talking, it's because I think I know it, so I have to learn to shut up. I'm going to do better.
What you said was helpful about in the beginning when you were building the nurture and rooting in that before you did the processing. There was stop start, but then there was a long period where she was tapping. And typically I have held that I want to titrate that. And I think it's because she's so stable, but I want to be cautious of that so that we don't get into more associative stuff. So I take them in and out and in and out and in and out, but I didn't see that. And
I didn't have to, right? And it's a good point because I did not have to do that. I'm going to let you talk in a second, Nilda, but anything that would have come up that would have been negative and that she didn't want to do here, she had the container, that bank vault on top of them. Okay. Nilda, did you want to say something?
What was very interesting during that moment, I think that you're speaking about, is I felt like I was going on a journey. Like I kept tapping and I was on this journey and it didn't feel bad. And I did have to redirect my thoughts from like, oh, but this happened, but that's not where I was. So I was able to do that. Like I was able to stay. And that's when I felt like, okay, this is what's happening right now. I'm doing this like, and you directed that by the questions you asked. Like I somehow knew I was looking at all these accomplishments and I saw the story in my head. And I think the tapping kind of helped reinforce that.
Great.
And it connects, see, the tapping also connects good things, right? This memory led to this memory, this memory. So if you're watching the face and there's, people are smiling, I could see her, right? And there was even one time there was a tear that was, I knew it wasn't a bad tear, right? There was other ones that maybe were, but I could tell this one was like, oh no, she's whelmed. And I had a director at Gestalt used to say, like, somebody say I'm overwhelmed. He'd be like, how the fuck you overwhelmed? You're whelmed. You're feeling your feelings. That's what that means, right? And trauma people who haven't felt it, that's you have to titrate it, right? Especially the upregulation of people because they don't have experience with upregulation. So when I work with therapists, I don't think we're the well crowd, but I think the people that are here have done a lot of work on themselves, and I think that people are interested in exploring, how to change. I think that's so. I have a little bit of different. Yeah, you got me.
I've never used that, and I love that you did that, by the way. Like I've never used that as a therapist. I love that you did that. So thank you for bringing it up.
You're welcome. Going back to the small self, and that's diagnostic for clinicians. If you can't see with compassion that small child, if all you have is contempt or disrespect, or you should have done this, like those, like there's something wrong with you, that's where you're going to go, right? Okay, so where did you hear that first? And as long as you know that you can stop, right? That's the one thing that Babette Rothschild said, that not just that I use her for this is a memory, it had a beginning, a middle, and an end. But she's very clear on those things. If you don't have brakes, you can't put the gas on, right? You have to be able to, if you don't know, right? If I like this, say no, that I didn't know that you were stable. I would not have done that. It would have been shorter sets until I learned who you were, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. You just said something that was, even though I've seen you teach tons and tons, you said you reminded me that tapping links positive, and tapping can open up trauma channels, but it also links the positive. I know this, but the way you said it then was right for me.
And I think one of the reasons that we don't want to just do this unlimited, unrestricted processing with some people is because mostly what they have is trauma. I heard Nilda say that is not, she had trauma, that you have trauma, but she had a lot of resources too.
Right.
When she's at Smith College meeting all these nice people, all I'm thinking is, well, she's going to come back to all these nice people here and see us all here, for her, with and for her. That's my session. And basically all I want to say is that's Gestalt. It's an EMDR Gestalt style, where it's just, you really follow where the energy is. And so what I wrote down in the beginning, I go back to, because it's new school, right? For her daughter, new school in the backyard, inter-school uniform at 5 years old. Can that person bring nurture and care? And if the answer is no, we're not using that person, right? We're gonna find something else, right? And maybe it is an animal, maybe it's a fish, who knows at that point. But we're saying if that didn't happen, right? Like I saw she has that compassionate self. I saw she has not just a triumphant self, but a triumphant self that goes from 5 all the way up to now, right? So, and then how do you go back to the original problem, which is, sometimes I still don't feel like I'm enough. And then you're back there of, okay, now you have all of this, now you have all of these neural networks that are open. Oh yeah, I did that. Oh yeah, that was hard. Oh yeah, I do remember like that person coming to me and saying, you changed my life, right? All of those things are like, this is why we do the job. It's like, can you breathe into that moment, either that moment of mutuality or that moment of astonishment? And, can that be something you can go to? When trauma memories come up or when bad things come up, because you need to have some other ones too. It can't always be the same. Oh, go right back to this is the trauma. You need to have other information. Go ahead, Melissa.
Sorry. So I kind of have 2 questions. One, this is gonna, I feel like a stupid question that was maybe just commented on, but just very like simply, can I say this and you tell me if this is right? I struggle with when to have the tappers on and when to have them off. Like when I'm in the midst of a session, I'm like, because I'm trying to guide them and I'm trying to be in my head, like, wait a minute, on, off, like script, like I think I have some of the same issues that Nilda was working on. So this was helpful for me. Thank you, by the way. But would you sum it up by saying like kind of what you just said? Just remember that if it's positive, you're tapping it in. If it's negative, you're opening up that neural network. And that the times that you should have it off is when you're putting in a resource, like when you're agreeing on a resource. So I guess what I'm looking for is like, is there like a compact sentence for like, have it on for this, off for that, on for this? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
It does, but I would say just yes, in the beginning, just keep the set short until you know how the client responds to it. That's the answer. But what you saw me do is just, okay, I get that in EMDR session, it is supposed to go this way, this way, this way. But there's times when it just doesn't go that way. There's other shit that needs to happen, right? And if somebody says like, yeah, I've done a lot of work on this, or I've done EMDR on this a bunch. Okay, well, what is it that's coming up for you now? Because we don't go back to the childhood just to get people upset or to make, to facilitate tears. We bring them back there because that's when all of these memories were laid down, right? And now everything that comes in from 5 years, 5 years old on, everything that comes in is now through I don't belong or I'm not enough or I don't, so every memory that's there is tainted with that. So what I want to do is go to the other thing is, look, you seem to be doing pretty well. You're a clinical psychologist here and you have with clientele and you have a family that loves you, you have all this stuff. So it's like, how do we bring those together? So the tapping piece of it is, for resourcing, it's short sets in the beginning. But if you're watching somebody and they're telling you, it's beautiful, I feel this, you don't have to stop tapping because it's not tapping into something negative. If I noticed face change and I said to Nilda, I noticed your face change, what happened, right? So if I don't know, I'm not going to pretend I do, right? But I want to make sure that nothing negative just happened at that moment. Because if it is,
you're going to turn them off for that piece of where I guess that's what I mean by like, that's the resourcing piece. Like you're asking her what's happening or you're agreeing to, can you bring up this scene? Okay, now I'm going to start the tapper. So during that conversational pieces, tappers should be off. So tappers should only be on if you're either tapping in something positive or you're accessing that neural network, I guess is what I'm trying to
Well, if you see 2 different things, right? So resourcing and everything else is short sets. When you're doing desensitization, it can be long sets, right? But what we did here is a combination of the 2. And again, this is what I want to say about it. It's like what? So we brought up some resources, and created resources for her. Like they're already for her with her daughter. She could picture herself doing it with a 5-year-old, and that's when her problem was. Well, isn't that convenient, right? It's not always that way, right? A lot of times you have to, you have to start with a fish for a resource, or you have to start with, I wish, with the Hulk or with something that is not a human, let's say it that way, right? So you can always stop and say, take a deep breath. Let it go. What do you notice? That's for everything. That is not even that's not EMDR. That's take a deep breath in. What's going on in your body? If you ever are, if you're ever concerned about like the person's processing too much, they feel like there's a lot coming up. Go to the body. Always go to the body. What do you notice in your body? Because now you're taking this, the power of the quote unquote story, and you're saying, what are you noticing? You know, what are you experiencing right now? My heart is my heart feels really tight. Okay, can you stay with that for a moment? What does it need? You can continue tapping the whole time. Like, what is your, what does your heart need? And then how can we do that? Like those, you're asking the questions, but if you get lost, stop the tapping, take a deep breath in. Where are you? What do you notice?
Thank you. And I have one other quick question. If this takes us on a left turn, tell me you'd rather answer this later or follow up later, whatever, that's totally acceptable. The client that I keep referencing that you and I spoke about the other day, she's done talk therapy for over 20 years just to fill everybody else in. So I'm having to fight that to get her to connect with her body and whatever. But whenever we're doing EMDR sessions, she wants to narrate every single second of what she's seeing and what's going on. Is that like, I feel like sometimes that's getting in her way. So how do you respond to if a client's doing that?
That's what I would say. I would say, do you notice that when you talk about it, that you distance yourself from the experience? And if she says, no, I don't notice that, well, let me have you drop into your body. And if she says, yes, I notice it, you say, do you have an idea what that is? Just have her tip, because you do. Everybody knows what it is. No, I don't want to be here. No, I don't want to take a breath in because then I'm going to feel, and I don't want to feel this. Right. So, I mean, if you say that, I want to say, I heard it as dismissive, see what you just said. I heard it as dismissive of go to the body and whatever. Go to the body. That's where trauma is, right? It's like the brain, the area of the brain that represents the body. It's where it plays itself out in the body, like the whole time. So you're going to always go to the body. And that's not just about trauma. That's about being human, right? Go to the body. And if the person doesn't want to go to the body, have them tap to figure out why they don't want to go to the body. Guess why they don't want to go to the body? Something happened to their body. Thank you. And Melissa, I didn't mean to be snarky about it. I'm just saying,
No.
About going to the body, because that's the most important thing. If you ever want to slow a session down, that's what you do. Go to the body, drop the story.
Oh, I love that. That's what I wanted, was like a good, quick, like thing to say to her, like that I can.
Do you feel that in your body?
Like that be an automatic, almost Pavlovian response to like stop narrating everything. Like, so no, you were not harsh or dismissive. You were perfect. Thank you.
Can I just add, Melissa, I'm just interested for the little teeny bit that I know. Can she go to her body?
We're getting there. She's very, as Linda and I did a consult about this, and Linda kept saying like, yeah, she sounds like she's cut off here. And she really is, because she did like literally over 2 decades of talk therapy alone. And she's just convinced that these somatic symptoms she's having have nothing to do with 4 major traumas she's told me about. And so I'm having to like basically convince her of do some psychoeducation on what the difference is in trauma therapy versus talk therapy, like the top down versus bottom up. And actually the flashing, if you've never seen that or looked into that, I encourage you to, because it's very similar to what we're doing today. It reminds me a lot of it.
Are you talking about flash technique?
Yeah, the blink, blink, the flash, blink, blink, blink thing where like, and she responded to that really well. But it was interesting because I asked her afterwards, and I said, you seem to have really responded to this differently. What was different today? Because she has not liked when I've done imaginal resources before. Because Linda taught a little bit of this to us, and at least in my session, we did some of this. So I have been doing some of this before. And she does not like this. She calls it hypothetical, like I'm giving her made up make believe, and she doesn't like that. But she really liked the flash technique, and because it was kind of more future scripting, like when this happens, this is what I'm going to do. And she said, well, I liked this because it was more positive, more forward focused, more, I didn't end up crying. I wasn't upset and whatever. And then I got very real kind of therapist tough love with her and said, okay, you've just told me what's been going on. You want to think your way out of this. You want to do this happy rainbow unicorns. And then you may not be ready for EMDR, because this isn't going to stop. These somatic symptoms are not going to stop until you feel your way out of it. Like, you have to refeel this stuff. And if you're not willing to refeel it, then we may not be ready yet. And so that like actually facilitated that conversation, which we had yesterday morning, actually. And it was a beautiful moment, but did seem to be a big breakthrough. I don't know if that answered your question, but no, it did, kind of doing a different, something more similar to this, kind of forced her to use her body and use that imaginal states, because it was like, we didn't go back to a past trauma. It was, think about you get the call that something's not okay with your kids. Okay, now I want you to think about a great time that you're with your kids and everything was wonderful and they were giggling and they were laughing. Okay, now go back and think about this. Okay, now think about this. Like it, and she said it was like it let my brain know that I can think about something else. And it taught me that thinking and emotions are temporary. So it like, she even verbalized, I mean, not in clinical language, of course, but she kind of verbalized like, oh, I had the experience of experiencing temporariness. So yeah, that was really cool. So she's working on it. She's getting there.
Yeah, and I just want to say, just for the sake of naming, right? So it's pendulation, what you're doing. You're pendulating from a place of resource to a place of trauma. And that's what Nilda and I did as well, right? So you go from resource to the trauma place, resource to the trauma place. And everybody loves resources more than the trauma place. I don't know why. I kind of do.
Comment, which was just something that I thought was so beautiful, was how you took the time to rehearse the nurturing, or sorry, to re-experience somatically the nurturing that she's had in the past with her daughter, so that that neural net was lit up, so that her body and everything else was reminded that she can do that, and then have her go nurture her 5-year-old self. And I have to admit, again, this idea of like, are we making mistakes? No, we're working with whatever the data is that we have until that moment, and then we learn something new, and then we're like, aha. So many times I ask people to go, and what can you tell your 5-year-old self? What could you do? And that's great, but a lot of times I realize I'm leading them there, and I think they know what I want to tell them, but it's totally different if you actually have them rehearse nurturing first, and then ask them to do the same, because they're already there. And that was just, I don't know why I hadn't put that together before, but that was just so helpful to see you do that. And I know that every single time from now on, I'm gonna do that. And I think we're gonna get a little further than I've gotten some of the time.
Yeah, one of the things I think is that people don't do that, spend enough time on the experience of what does it feel like to be comforted, whether you're the comforter or the comforted, I mean, they're different things. But if you're going to do childhood memories, you have to have, whether it's your own adult self. Let me tell you something. Shirley Jean Schmidt, who does developmental needs meeting strategy, she always talks about resources as everything is a provisional resource except you as an adult going back and doing it for your child. And I think that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm not saying everybody has to think that, but it did make a lot of sense to say like, oh, absolutely. The ideal resource is that I can go back and say to my kid, look, this is what's going to happen. I really do now. You're going to have some bad shit happen, but then listen, and this is going to happen. You're going to be able to do this, and you're going to have those things that you want because you do. And the idea of saying, can you be trustworthy? Like, that's really important, because you have a child self that, if you have a lot of trauma, you weren't really able to save the kid from the trauma, but then the things that you did on top of that to stay alive are, sources of shame or embarrassment or whatever. So people have to be able to say, okay, well, I could do this for a kid of that age. And not everybody has the experience, like you're saying, that, if they're 14 years old, they may not have it, but they may have something like it, and if they don't, then you go to the provisional resources where it's like, so, Paul Ingalls was great for this. Paul Ingalls was my provisional resource when I was a kid, for real. But it's like, who was it? Who's the provisional? It's fine. Use that now because that's where we are. And eventually the idea is to get somebody to be able to have the adult self, have all those experience of, but not just experiencing being very shamed, but having somebody come and say, oh no, it's okay, baby. This is not you. This is not you. And you're going to figure, and we're going to figure this out later on. But for right now, here's your 124 crayons. Go ahead, Hilda.
Just quick question. Provisional resource, can you say a little bit about it?
I have what I call healing circle resources and provisional resources. The healing circle resources are the gold standard. It's a nurturing adult self, a protective adult self, and a spiritual core self. There's a specific protocol that we use to get each one. The nurturing and protective are kind of like mirror images. The protocol is almost the same. We use a list of 24 skills and traits that we want these two resources to have. The client will check off that they have each one of these skills and traits. The meditation is basically reading the skills, but we anchor that to a specific experience the client has had of using all of those skills in a particular setting.
That's what's different, right?
Yeah, so it's very, very comprehensive. It's very thorough. It's very careful. There's no mistake. These are really exquisitely vetted resources. And then we bring them together as a team and strengthen it with bilateral stimulation as a team. Now, not every client is ready to establish these healing circle resources. So we have a backup plan, either if we need resources really fast, or if the client isn't ready for healing, to do the healing circle meditations. And we call them provisional resources. And it's a tiered approach. So the very, very best provisional resources are resources that are self, like my pet lover self, because I nurture and care for my pets, or my therapist self, because I nurture and care for my clients, or if I'm a mother and I'm really good at taking care of my kids, or I was a terrible mother, but I'm a great grandmother, then it's my grandmother self. This would be the top tier provisional resource. And then the next one down would be like a spiritual core or spiritual resource. If the client can't mobilize 3 resources from each of those 2 categories, then we drop down to the next level. And the next level is being cared for by somebody, like a grandmother or a teacher at school, or somebody who is really loving and nurturing. But each one of these is vetted. So like for the top tier, my pet lover self, I would ask 2 vetting questions. And the first one is, would your cat recommend you as a competent caregiver? And if you'd been raised by someone who is as good to you as you are to your cat, would that have been a good thing? Right? So if they can answer yes to those, then we've got a vetted resource. So, and the next tier down for the like say grandmother, if you've been raised by someone who could have been as good to you as your grandmother was, would that have been a good thing? And so it's, if we have a go, then we have a grandmother resource. And if we can't get a grandmother resource or anybody else on that tier, then we pop down to the next one, which is people that we've observed being a good caregiver to somebody else. And another tier down is a celebrity, Oprah Winfrey, Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, Mr. Rogers. So we have this tiered approach, and we try to get resources as close to the top of the chain as the ladder as we can. So we get the 3 best resources we can, put them together in a team. That's the provisional resources.
After they've developed them and used them, it makes the teacher less relevant, right?
The therapist is more of a facilitator. Mm-hmm. It facilitates needs being met by the resources. I mean, it's fine and well for me to be the needs meter, but it makes the client very dependent on the therapist. It's so much better if that dependence can be on resources on the inside.
When I read your book, it delineated it from other resources that we do before EMDR: container, comfortable place, protector figure, nurturing figure. They're not vetted like that.
Right. They're not vetted.
And they don't
Sometimes
necessarily come from their own experience.
right. And some of them can be like an imaginal parent or just a strength like courage, like getting a client in touch with their inner courage before starting EMDR. But they're not just qualities and traits, and we're not resourcing for the adult self. We're resourcing for wounded child parts.
The fact that they have those experiences of doing it, whether they did it once or they've done it, for their kids the whole time,
Right.
they have the experience, so they have that neural net.
Right. And when a wounded child part goes, well, I just don't think that I can trust this resources to do it. I could go, well, can she do it with her cat? Well, yeah. Well, if she can do it with her cat, she can do it with you. So we have that backup. That's our proof.
All of these things we talk about where you say like, here's my protector figure is the Hulk, or, here's my protector figure is, my dog or whatever. And really, if you're going back to a younger self, you want it to be your adult self to be able to do those things for the child. Because again, it's not the trauma in the child. It's not what happened to the kid. It's the way the adults responded to the kid when they were traumatized, right? When a bad thing happened. That's really what the problem is. The people weren't available. Either the people were the one doing it or the people weren't available to regulate the kid and to put it in a context after they calm them down, put it in a context, a bigger context of a narrative.
I really wanted to say it's been a long time. I've been EMDR and ART for a while, and I feel like I got caught in just the standard protocol with a few deviations and such. Seeing the way you pendulated that session between desensitizing, resourcing, nurturing, third person, that was phenomenal. And at times I almost wonder, I'm like, oh, I'm so off the protocol. I'm so way off the protocol. But it becomes more of an intuitive or watching the person where they go. So that was just riveting. I'm like, whoa, thank you very much.
She's allowed to do that?
I know. I'm like, look at her go. That wasn't 40 sets. What did she do? No, I'm joking, but
it is. That's what people say.
It was such a weave. It was such a weave, was what I felt like. You just kept weaving back and forth, and I'm like, nice.
Pendulation is really, for me, that's a Gestalt train. I'm Gestalt trained in that. And I think that, I've said to Peter Levine times, like, most people think that somatic experiencing is Gestalt therapy manualized. And he goes, I'm flattered. I disagree, but I'm flattered. But that was really it, about bringing resource to a place of trauma. And, you once you're more resourced, you can take on more of that. Can I process this piece? Go back to the resource. If it starts to feel whelming and then overwhelming, then it's not helpful if it's overwhelming. That means people are being re-traumatized. But if you can bring resource to it and have an observing self, you're in really good shape there, because you really can develop a narrative, but the narrative only comes after the process in the body, only comes after the process in the reptilian part of the brain, and after you process the emotions. Only then do you, change beliefs, which change, become a narrative and become part of the identity. Right. So it's like, if you have a lot of trauma, you're going to be in therapy longer period of time, period. But if you had somebody in your life when you were young, that's that, by my school people, if you work with kids, you're the one that held the kid in their mind and heart where they feel like they're worthy of knowing. So thank you again, Rebecca, and thank you, Dana, and whoever else works with kids, thank you, because that's the most important thing, right? When you're a kid. But if you didn't get it, you can go back and this is something that you can remediate and say, go back of, yes, that there was not a kind, trusting adult in my life at that time, but I could be that for me, right? It's not a provisional resource. I am the resource, right? Body is the resource, and that's one thing for you, Melissa, to tell your clients: the body is the resource. It's the core resource, So if you're cut off from it, you really lose a lot of information, helpful information. Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't really tell everybody like I'm allowed to do whatever I want, but I'm allowed to do whatever I want under certain conditions, right? So as long as I know what the resources are and that I can bring them and that I can stop the session, that I can break this session, that's fine. I can mess up a lot. And by the way, anytime you get lost, it's not that you messed up. You're going to take a break, take a deep breath in, let it go. Okay. So then we go back to the resource. You can start from comfortable place. If you want to do that, you could start from another resource. You know, I mean, the things that I write down in the beginning, if it's helpful for anybody to know this, you might want to take the time to write down the words that the client's saying so you can reflect them back in those moments when they're not feeling that, right? So that's really what, like, and you know, I say this in my trainings all the time, like your clinician ears perk up when you hear something. Like I was thinking when said, feel calm, smoother, like when she was talking about feeling grounded, comfort, heavier, like be able to go to that experience and feel the body of feeling. What does it feel like to feel grounded? And that heaviness, it's because you said it's a good heaviness. What does it feel like? It feels like, you know, I'm here and embodied, like I'm embodied, I'm right here and I'm doing this. So it's not like the person is dissociative. You're absolutely pulling them back to the body, back to the, you know, back to the present. That's all I got for you on that one. Again, I put those worksheets up here that like, they're not really worksheets. They're for you to use however you want. Read them, don't read them. You know, you have a new dog, whatever, new rabbit, whatever you want to put them as paper, that's fine. But I will say that, you know, people learn in different ways. So if you learn by watching or listening, this is it. If you learn, you know, by reading it and then bringing it to the client and say, here, this is kind of what we're doing. I'm going to ask you to think of some resources, and resources just mean, and kind of explain it to them and say, so these worksheets are just to get you on the same page, right? Literally, right? On the same page as we are. So bring them in, and whether you use them or not, you have information, right? Whether if the client says, like, I refuse to do this, well, that's diagnostic of something, right? Okay, so let's give you the tappers and say, what would it have been like had you done this? You know, and you can do any of those things, right? So like this. Are you rolling your eyes, Mary Alice? Did I say something? No? Okay.
No, that was my thinking look. Ah, yes.
Okay, so what do we want to do now, G? I'm putting you in charge. I'm going to shut up.
But we have an hour left. I did see a comment about medical trauma as a thing that was mentioned earlier. I also just want to say something that for the people that are new this time, we did a little bit of a preamble earlier about this whole idea of EMDR, deconstructed, and permission, and that you're not going to kill anybody. I did hear the Parnell thing I love, which is hilarious because actually, so I trained with Parnell. And when I trained with her, I felt like she was breaking all the rules and she was given all kinds of permission. So it's interesting that was the way you experienced it. But, you know, hey, depending on what anybody is emphasizing in anyone training, you know, it's cool. I do think that, though, that, you know, the idea of there's so much that you can do with alternating bilateral stimulation, either privileging or resourcing something or, you know, and or desensitizing or processing something. And you know, the thing about resourcing, again, to these doubting Thomases who think, oh, that's made up and whatever else. You know, I think people have a lot of experience with perseverating on negative thoughts about themselves, and those are ingrained, deeply ingrained neural grooves that they keep falling into whenever they get stressed. And I think another way of describing resourcing is we just really give short shrift to privileging or reminding ourselves about accomplishments, strengths, and things that we have. And so it's like going to the gym for the positive thoughts, if you will. And I think if you explain it to them that way, they will understand that there is a muscle, there's a neural muscle in there that is atrophied because the only thing that they've been telling themselves all the time is how terribly they're doing something or how they can't figure it out or how overwhelmed they are. But if that's the other just good reason to resource. And I said this last time, but going to the following the energy, if I can have the most elaborate plan for reprocessing the rape at age 2, but if somebody walks in looking like they got hit by a truck, I do know that maybe what we need to do today is resourcing. And you've got a whole, talk about a box of crayons, you have a whole mess of options here of how you can resource people. And it's not only going to help them that moment, which is useful and valid, but it's also going to help them, you know, going forward. And you don't get into that trap of like talk therapy, boo, who wants to hear more narrating and talking, you know, getting them into the idea of working more imaginally, somatically, and with bilateral stimulation so that that becomes what they understand to be therapy for your person who's been 20 years talking for them. So I think anytime you have an opportunity to use these elements of EMDR in some way in the session, you are helping the client and yourself as when you get to the moving the heavy pieces of furniture around of the old trauma. I just wanted to throw that out.
I think that's right. The piece about saying this is EMDR and this isn't EMDR. I always call it what you want, whatever it is, but it's all therapy, right? So, I mean, the idea is, well, I'm not doing full. Okay, well, what happened to this person in your office today? What did you do with this person? Well, I didn't get to resourcing. I didn't get to a full processing. All we did was a behavioral rehearsal. What did you do for the person who's sitting in front of you when they come in and they have a need? What do you do with that? Oh, we'll put that away because I want to do this today. Of course, we're not doing that, right? I mean, the follow the energy is just, okay, well, if somebody comes in and they say, look, this just happened to me. I know I want to process a memory, but this just happened. You can kind of weave that in, by the way, right? If you have somebody that has resources already, activate those resources and maybe create another, right? And when I say create another, it's to deal with the situation at hand. You know, the question about driving that came up, right? I'm looking at the thing over here. The question of driving is there is an actual danger in driving. So you're going to desensitize somebody to about a 1 or a 1.5, maybe, like, because there's other people involved and other people sometimes are assholes. I'm on the road. You know what I mean? I could run right into you. I don't pay attention as often as I should. So, I mean, there is some danger. So you have to say, okay, well, it's not going to be completely like if you just had a car accident and now you have to get back in the car, it is going to be effortful. You are going to have to remind yourself of all the times that you stayed alive, all the times that you didn't get in an accident, rather than this one time that just changed your life. So if we're talking about a flashback, it's a flashback that people are having, or people can't get in the car when they do, I would say do the imaginal resourcing. And I'm sure Gerard, Kate, anybody who wants to do a session, I think we could set that up. I mean, like, I think we should see somebody else do a session besides me and Gerard, but I'm not. What do you think, Gerard? Anybody else ready to do a session for resourcing? Here we got one taker. Do you want to, are you saying you want to be the therapist to do a resourcing session? Oh, that's what I'm offering.
I actually would like, oh, sorry. I was volunteering to be the patient or the client for the medical trauma stuff, but if you're only looking for somebody to volunteer for the other, then I get that.
Well, I'm saying, I think that might be helpful, but let's see, what do people think? What do you want to see? Again, follow the energy of the group, but I have to know where you are.
Before you do that, can I just ask a question? Because say somebody gets, say it's a car accident, right? They get to a 2. Are you at, like, how many would you is this like a one and doneer, or do you
for a car
do it
accident?
again?
No, absolutely. For a car accident, if it's a one-time car accident that somebody had, and this is a single incident trauma, you're not going to see this person very long. You have maybe 3 hours with this person total. That's all you really need for that. But what you're going to do is do a future template too. After you process the memory, all right, I'm going to die. That's the negative cognition. Okay, I know I didn't die. I'm sitting here with you. All right, well, that doesn't feel that way when the memory network comes up. So what you have to do is activate the memory network and process through. When you get to a 0 or 1, when you get to a 2 or a 1, what keeps it from being it? Well, I have to get back in this car. Melissa, you're the perfect one for this because we just talked about it. Melissa, you guys were here last time. Melissa is the one who I told you about at the end. We did the future template of the car. So she has a ritual now with her kids about her father when her father passed. We talked about that last time. That was Melissa's father. So it's like that was the future template after, we're talking about if you have to process the memory of the loss, and then you do, okay, well, I still have to, have to get back in this car. And when I think about getting in the car, this comes up. Okay, we'll process that. Then we'll get you back in the car. What do you need, right? So we're looking for what resources are missing now. I need my confidence. Okay, well, let's get triumphant self, and let's think of a few times when you were a good driver, where you were able to steer away, or you didn't have the 5th drink, whatever. I'm only kidding about that. But whatever it is, what did you need at the time? Well, I need somebody to say, calm down, or I need this skill. I need to be mindful that I'm here in this car right now. And, just because I could be killed doesn't mean I'm likely to be killed, right? But that's what it feels like, trauma. So you do a future template work. Now, the other thing is you can do future template without processing a memory. But if there is memories that come back, you're going to put them in, you can either process them like I did with Nilda, or you can put them in a container and say, we're going to do that when I'm like, when you and I are both more convinced that you are well-resourced enough to do that.
I'd like to watch a buzzkill session. How about I'll take C. I'd like to watch somebody else do a buzzkill
session because I wasn't here last time, so I'm really, really interested in what that is. So I'd love to watch that.
Can you do a buzzkill for like, because I like the idea of the medical trauma stuff too.
Well, buzzkill's not going to be that.
Well, that's what I was.
No,
So
buzzkill.
I'm just putting a little thing out for the medical trauma piece. Only
Okay,
because I saw the buzzkill, but I can do another. Obviously,
Well, no. It's not that I want people to see another buzzkill. I want somebody that learned buzzkill to do buzzkill in front of the people, because that's the next, right? That's it. See it, do it, teach it, right? And I'm looking at you, coughing. I am. I am. I would like to see that, and I don't need to see it because I absolutely know how it's done.
If that is what the group wants, I can do that again.
Anybody want to see a buzzkill? Want to be part of buzzkill? Does anybody have an unwanted behavior that they would like to work with? Anybody else? I don't want to just make first hands up.
Actually, you were saying about medical trauma. Actually, because I don't know buzzkill is, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said an unwanted action. This one is actually my personal medical trauma. I would like to stop as soon as a doctor. The other day, I was expected and all geared up to see my chronic pain doctor, and they threw a totally new doctor at me, and I decompensated and completely I'm surprised they didn't commit me. I would love to, if I have to see a new doctor, if I have to be in a medical situation that I wasn't expecting and I'm not able to gear up for, that I don't have that response. I don't know if that helps and makes that work. If not, disregard what I said.
Does that sound more like future template?
Future template with resources. That's what she's saying. And whether it's resources of, how do I calm myself down, or how do I bring in a resource, an imaginal resource to comfort me, whatever that be. Let's just, before we go there, Gerard, why don't you say what buzzkill is?
Sure. Buzzkill, as I said last time, is taken in part from Miller's feeling state addiction protocol, which is one of kind of 4 commonly used EMDR addiction protocols. And what I tweaked it a little bit with the population I work with, which primarily had been people with sexual addictions, but all process addictions work, and other treats that you might give yourself that, when you are stressed or at the end of your day, that in the end you may not want to be giving yourself. So that 2 glasses of wine, or the pan of fudge brownies you keep making, whatever, when you're stressed, and finding something different. So the idea is you have this unwanted behavior that you keep participating in that doesn't pan out for you, but solves the problem in the moment and is linked to some feeling of soothing yourself, but also probably some positive thought about yourself. And then it is breaking the link between that and substituting a different, more adaptive behavior that is linked to that positive feeling state. So it has more to do with sort of addictions, compulsions, unwanted behaviors than it has to do with just a thought, let's say, or a reaction you have.
I want to ask a question about that too, Gerard. Sorry, everybody, but do you find that that's a one and done, or do you find that you have to do that a few times with people?
So interestingly, what Miller talks about, and what I think is borne out in my experience, is it can be absolutely one and done with the specific behavior, but there may be related behaviors that are nearby that it may not touch, right? So let's say I think the example I maybe gave last time is going onto a particular pornography app that you shouldn't be on, is wasting a lot of your time and it's making you feel icky about yourself. You might be able to fix not going onto that porn app or to that website or to that whatever in one session, and then asking people subsequently, is there something else? Or did it come up when you asked them a week later? No, I didn't do that. I did the adaptive behavior instead. But it's not to say that it's going to rule out all sexual compulsions forever for the person, right? And you may have to do other buzzkills on other sexual compulsions just because they may be linked to different positive feeling states about the person. One might be about I'm sexy. The other one might be about I'm wanted. The other might be about I'm valuable. those are sort of different feeling states that can become linked to a thing that we might call sexual compulsion. But you're hitting the thing, let's say, that's about I'm sexy, but you're not addressing if they feel validated or wanted or loved or something or other, which you might have to do in so long answer to your short question. You might have to do other ones for related things, but it can knock it out, in my experience, in like just basically one session. That's the beauty of it. Give somebody a win in one 50-minute session, because you could probably desensitize them within 25 to 30 minutes, and then privilege the other one in the next 10 or 15 minutes, and then just check in and say goodbye.
Do you do the resourcing first and then the buzzkill, or do you just do the buzzkill?
Just the buzzkill. It's not, unlike, it's just setting it up first, which is really sort of essentially doing what's the positive emotion you feel, what's the positive feeling you have in your body, and what's the positive thought that you have that's connected with this behavior. When you imagine doing the behavior, what are these three things? And then how strong is the connection between I'm sexy or I feel validated, let's say, and the unwanted behavior? Oh, it's a 9. Okay, good. So that's your starting point. And then you're just doing the desensitization and then the privileging.
Kate Haskell wants you to stop using the word privileging.
I know. I think
it's confusing too, Kate. So
okay. Reinforcing, enriching, affirming.
Here's the thing. You're saying you have a feeling state that I want to feel this kind of way, and this particular behavior gives it to me. And then after it, there's a consequence, right? So the only hope is in this particular thing is that you say, okay, we can unpair this behavior with this feeling state, unpair it, and then pair it up with something else that is more adaptive. Correct. So it's like it's like learning.
A delinking and a linking, right? A separation and then a new coupling.
Unpairing and repairing.
Unpairing and repairing. Fantastic. Let's take all that out of there. Good.
I'm going to privilege unpairing and repairing.
I'm willing to be the client. There's this new thing at the grocery store that's like the death of me right now. This green apple licorice thing. Unbelievable. I keep diving into it. 2 days ago, I bought 2 bags of this stuff. It's awful. Yeah. So I'm happy to jump in if someone.
Now that I understand what buzzkill is, I wanted to say thank you to Gerard for quickly explaining, because now I totally more understand what y'all are looking for. That it immediately brought up for me. You said you last time told the story about my father's car accident, and to very quickly tell you everything Linda told you is absolutely true. And I'm so much better. I drive by that place 15 times a day now, and I literally actually smile more times than not when I go by it now, as crazy as that sounds. So everything she told you is absolutely true, first of all, just to say that about that. But we are now selling my father's house that we've been living in since he died. And my brother coming, whenever I know that my brother is coming, I guess big brother disapproval stuff comes up for me. And I, last week, literally made myself physically sick, throwing up sick, cleaning hands and knees, cleaning baseboards, and Martha Stewart on speed. The house had to be perfect. I was being judged on how good this house was. And it was for a realtor to come, not to sell the house. It was just for him to bring a realtor. But whenever my brother is coming, or whenever my in-laws are coming, whenever somebody's coming to my house, I turn into this, the house has to be 100% perfect. My husband and I end up fighting by the end, because he's like, the house is fine. It looks great, but I cannot not go to 20 with obsessively cleaning and whatever. So now that I more understand, I just wanted to say that was helpful for me to reconceptualize what buzzkill is. Totally don't have to be the client. Just wanted to say that helped me.
I was just going to say, Kate, I think it would be better if you watched it first, because they watched it last time and they took it and did it in their practice. So I think it might be better for you to watch it this time, and then the next time do it, right? The other thing is, everybody here has people that they can practice this with, and I really think you should do that.
if what you're saying, I'm happy to be client because I've seen it and I've done it. And I really need to extinguish this green apple licorice thing.
I think the energy's in a green licorice. Is that what we're hearing?
And I'll tell you, just to be transparent, I work with kids almost exclusively. So anytime I have to do this with adults, I freak out just a tiny bit. So it's also going to challenge me because I feel like working with adults is intimidating. So
that's okay. I'm only 12.
Okay, that's fine.
She's doing green apple licorice. Do you think that's an adult?
This is true. This is true.
All right.
Hey, adults eat sweets too. As every time I've done this with an adult, it's been about sweets. So
yeah, or wine, or alcohol. It's like just okay. This is the same thing. It's just a different substance. All right, so we're going to go dark, and let's say we'll give you, I would say as much time as you need, but at 25 minutes, I'll let you know.
Okay. Something that I've gotten in the habit of telling the people I'm doing this with is that this is not reprocessing. So if you're opening your eyes in between while we're doing this, that's fine. And it'll kind of help you refocus back into what we're doing specifically, since we are going to be working on one very specific thing rather than sort of following the memory, if you will. Okay. So we're wanting to work on this specific, so is it like a snack or like a dessert?
It's awful. So I had it the first time at book club. My friend had it for St. Patrick's Day book club. And it's this particular kind of licorice. And I'd never had it before. And I have been completely driven to buy it periodically. And it's big and it's super chewy and it's green apple. And they sell it at my grocery store and it's always on the front display.
Gotcha. So kind of like always right there, right in front of you as soon as you walk in, and you can't ignore it because it's right there.
Yeah, I think it's a new product or something like
that. I think that's how they do that with everything that's yummy. They're just like, I know you'll buy it, so we'll put it right in front of you.
Right.
Okay. So so when you're walking in the grocery store, are you specifically wanting to work on desensitizing to the urge to grab it specifically, or is it the urge to consume it?
Great distinction. I would like to work on the debate that starts in my head if it's been a long day from the car into the store of, am I going to buy it or am I not going to buy it? If I buy it, I'll say to myself, I'll eat 3, and literally probably before I get home, which is less than a mile and a half the bag is gone. It's like a very rapid, weird, it's a compulsion. I just eat it till it's gone.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I don't feel well. So I don't even want to get to the place that I pick it up.
Gotcha. Okay. So you want to completely desensitized to even feeling the need to want to grab it, to purchase it, to then take it home.
Yeah.
So is there a specific time of day that you're going to the grocery store when this is happening?
Shocker, after work.
Oh, imagine that. Okay.
And it's usually a Tuesday or Thursday. Those tend to be more clinically challenging. It's a different day structure that I think sets it up.
Gotcha. Okay. And so you usually just go in there by yourself. It's not like you have anybody with you when you're going.
No, I'm coming home from work on my way to the house, and if I'm picking up salad or this or that or the other thing, and then the debate starts about the licorice or no licorice.
I gotcha. Okay. Okay. Do you feel okay to go ahead and start?
Mm-hmm.
Good. So I'd like you, if you're comfortable, go ahead and open or close your eyes. Yes, don't open them. Deep breath in and out. Good. One more in and out. Good. I'd like you to imagine that it's been, let's pick Tuesday. Does that feel okay? It's been a really long Tuesday. It's been very difficult at work. Imagining that you've gotten in your car, you're turning your vehicle on, and you've decided that you need to go to the store. And I'd like you to imagine that you have started this conflict between getting it and not getting it. I'd like you to imagine going to the store, driving there, getting out of your vehicle and going inside the store and seeing this display of this green apple licorice. Good, good. Now I'd like you to imagine or not imagine, but what kind of feelings, what kind of body sensations come up as you're reaching for this bag?
It's a mixture of deserving and exhaustion. Like I deserve, it's craving, and tiredness. Yeah.
Gotcha. So feeling like what I'm hearing is maybe that it's the easy choice.
It's the special choice.
Special choice. Okay.
Yeah.
So going back into that, imagining that urge to grab it while feeling that you're deserving it, it's the special choice, the exhaustion, the craving, and the tiredness. 0 to 10, where is that connection between those feelings, especially that deserving and special choice and grabbing for it?
Oh, it's at least an 8.
An 8.
Or 9.
Okay, 8 or 9. Okay, good. So I'd like you to go ahead and tap through and really just starting to think about that connection. Good. Deep breath in. Go ahead and stop tapping. Good. And when you think of that connection now, specifically again between that feeling of deserving of that special choice and grabbing for that bag, where are we at? Did it go up, stay the same, or come down?
Went up a little.
Went up a little. So maybe 9 or 10. Okay. And what's coming up for you right now as you think about that?
Well, it's also really interesting because I can totally taste it in my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what's coming up for me? Do you want thoughts or feelings?
Whatever is coming up for you, both is great.
You worked really hard. It tastes so good. Oh, that's a good one. It's a little bag. So some sort of justification thing. Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay.
No, I'm having a really interesting association. When I was on swim team as a little kid, one of the things we used to do was eat the Jell-O. So I'm having this really interesting association of being on swim team, being a little kid and eating this Jell-O out of meat that you just put your fingers in and you eat this really sugary Jell-O.
Gotcha.
So it's just fascinating. Okay,
so I'd like to just, again, because we're just working on this one specific thing, but it's good to notice that kind of stuff.
How old that rapid exertion and this kind of weird sugary flavor thing. So great. Go for it.
Good. So again, going back to that feeling of deserving, that special choice, and I don't think that it's bad that we're bringing up that association because it's obviously tied to this. So I want you to go ahead and again, really thinking about those feelings, thinking about grabbing for that bag, and go ahead and start tapping. Good. Go ahead and stop. Deep breath in and out. Good. And when you think of that connection again to those feelings of deserving, special choice, and that urge to grab that bag of the Big Apple licorice, where are we at now?
Super interesting. Well, I feel kind of the sickness in my stomach that I get after I eat the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I'm having some aversion feeling. So like I'd say it's like it's like a 4 or 5.
Okay, good, good. So again, we're going to go ahead and tap, just really thinking about that, grabbing that bag with those feelings. Good, you can go ahead and stop, deep breath in and out. Good. And what's coming up for you now?
Well, there's stuff coming up, which I could, I'll just tell you that, and then I don't quite know where I should go, but I'll just tell you, I have this sense of that feeling of like, oh, I did good work, that tiredness that I feel like in my office before I pack up my bags to go out to the car. So it's like earlier in time from before the debate starts.
Gotcha. So even before you're leaving your office.
Yeah, that feeling of just there's kind of a healthy tired and an unhealthy tired, you know, like a fatigued tired and a healthy tired. But when I feel myself, if you want me like at the place where I grab the, you know, where the actual touching of the thing is, and the idea of I deserve this or it's a special choice, it's a little bit like so like not really.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, like, yeah, those two things are kind of emerging simultaneously. That's not gonna work.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And my observing self is I kind of also know the protocol, but it's your experience of it is really quite alive.
Yeah, good, good. So I want to go ahead and run it again, okay? So go ahead and start tapping again, thinking about that urge to grab it while feeling that deserving and special choice. Good, you can go ahead and stop. Deep breath in and out. Good. Now, I want to take a second to think a little bit differently. When you're having that feeling of good tiredness, what else in your life do you feel like gives you that feeling?
Like Peloton, after I swim, there's let's see, good tiredness. historically I would have told you hiking. I've had a foot injury, so like after a long hike in the woods or by the beach, so they're all embodied. That those are the first ones that come up. I definitely feel it after I teach, like if I'm teaching at a conference, and I, shut down the PowerPoint, and I usually take my shoes off, and there's a deep kind of both, tired, but a sense of just a warm kind of connected feeling.
Good. Can we go with that last one specifically? Because I feel like that one's really powerful for you. Good. So I want you to imagine that you've just finished teaching at a conference. You've turned off the PowerPoint, your shoes have come off, feeling that warm feeling that you have achieved this. I want you to go ahead and tap that in. Good. You can stop. Deep breath in and out. Good. 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 So I just want to go back and check on that connection between those feelings, those positive feelings towards grabbing that bag of green apple licorice. Where are we at?
Oh, we're somewhere between negative 0.5 and 0, and like it's like no.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it would be okay for you to visualize a time when it is okay to give yourself a special treat, even if it isn't necessarily the green apple licorice, but specifically something else that you could do?
Sure. Do you want me to come up with one?
Sure, that would be great.
Oh, it's there's a particular kind of sushi that I really love.
Ooh, okay.
So yeah, or yeah, like it's just yeah, it's special, and I don't get it often, and it grosses most people out. So I may or may not tell what it is, but
oh, it's one of my favorite foods. So go ahead.
Okay, so it's ikura salmon.
Oh,
salmon,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, and like there's a way that, like if I eat 2 or 4 pieces, like I'm completely sated, and it's flavorful, and it's special.
Gotcha. Can you get it at the same grocery store?
No.
Okay.
They don't sell it. They sell it at the good sushi restaurant, not very far though, like
Gotcha.
just across the parking lot. So yeah.
Okay. Could we do a future template with that then, of like you've made this decision of, I really do deserve this treat. And then maybe pairing it with the feeling of satiation as well, like that you've been sated once you have this, instead of needing to go on this urge to go to the grocery store to pick up this bag. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to imagine, again, it's another Tuesday. It's been a really long day. I've seen every difficult client that you could imagine on Tuesday. We're very overwhelmed, very stressed. And we've made that decision that, yes, I do deserve to have this good thing for myself. And I want you to imagine, again, getting in your vehicle, turning it on, and driving. But instead of going to the grocery store, you go to this sushi restaurant. And imagine walking in. And what emotions come up for you knowing that this is the choice that you've made?
Oh, wow, I'm emotional. I think it's an emotion of I know myself well.
Yeah.
And it's also an emotion of just kind of, it's funny, like I'm a big kid.
Yeah.
You know, that it, I don't ever feel that ill feeling after I have that. Like I never eat enough of, you know, like there's no kind of overdoing it. So it's very clean that way. It's just simple, a special little treat. So like skillful.
Gotcha.
Like to attend to that part of myself, but also in kind of a very, you know, like DBT wise mind. Like this is a wise, yeah.
Yeah, good. I want to go ahead and tap that in. Okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead and start tapping, really feeling that you know yourself well. It's like you're a big kid. You're not going to get sick from this. It's very skillful. Good. You can go ahead and stop. Deep breath in. Good. You can join back when you're ready. I was going to ask how you're feeling, but I think I can kind of tell how you're feeling.
Yeah. You have a lovely way that your speech is, and it just is, it's really such a good reminder to the therapist and me how meaningful it is to hear my exact words back. Yeah.
Well, that means a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it really, but the pacing and the way that you moved me through, and I could really feel held and just be my client self. And then I, you know, had a little observer therapist self, like, oh, that's interesting with the Jello at the swimming pool. But really you held me beautifully in that space. Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for volunteering for this, because it's being vulnerable, especially when it comes to things that can be embarrassing. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm open to questions or whatever. Yeah, thank you. Put my glasses on now. So oh, thanks.
That was really helpful to see your eyes.
Okay, great.
Okay, so cavelling, as always, cavelling. So Kate, I heard you say how it was for you. Was there anything that you were confused about, or anything you would have done differently?
Curious, not unfinished. I mean, like the association of being the kid for a lot of time, that association, and knowing that there's an aloneness feeling that probably needs to get unpacked. But that was super interesting to have that linkage come in.
I wrote to Gerard during it. It's like, it's nice not to interrupt and see where it goes. Can I just make a suggestion? I don't know if it's right or not, but this is my suggestion. There was one point when Kate said, like, when she's done, and it may be that I know this feeling when you're done with the 3-day, you're done with the 5-day, and it's like you're spent. And it's like, I'm getting a bucket cheeseburger from room service and whatever, you know, like, because I deserve this. So what I would have suggested is something that somebody suggested to me is, okay, when you're done, sit down, tap in all of those moments where you met with people. I'm talking about when you're teaching, you really, and you have those moments that people connect with you, and you see the vulnerability, and you can hold the vulnerability and tap those in before you leave. That was helpful for me. So like, to make the connection, it's not necessarily about food, like you have to eat, everybody has to eat, that's not the question, but it's like, what is missing, you know? And she was saying, okay, well, after I did a lot of physical exertion when I was on the swim team, I got this as a treat. And it's probably because there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of kids there, and that's what you're doing. You know, mothers didn't know to bring orange slices at the time. We were just pouring sugar, right? And there's a whole lot of stuff that's in that. So I thought that was really interesting. And as a therapist, Kate's bringing it up, right? I would probably have gone with that. right? And I would have done it wrong, but it would have been different. It wouldn't have been wrong. You know what I mean? It would have just been different. So I really appreciate it. And I think that I thought it was very nice to see that it's like, like Gerard said to me, like you took it in it, you modified it for Kate. And that is what has to happen. I mean, that's just it. You know, there is no, this is the way you do it for everyone. This is what happened in this particular session. If it didn't work for Kate, find something that does work for Kate, you know, and if it doesn't work for a couple people, maybe you go, okay, well, I should try something different with this.
Why would you have brought it in, Linda? Because I was thinking, wow, Rebecca brought her back on track. and I might have gone the other way, which I thought was really good, Rebecca, how you did do that. So I'm wondering, Linda, because Gerard, you
I'm
said
just saying
about
that's just
staying on track, right?
for me. But the buzzkill is a particular procedure for a particular thing. And sometimes Gestalt therapists go, oh, well, we're going this way because this came up, right? So she said, oh, it's really interesting. I would just say, so begin tapping. Okay, what's so interesting? She'll figure it out, right? All those connections will get made. What's interesting? And then, okay, what is the feeling? I made it up for her, the one about at the end of seminar, because that's how I feel. But I don't know what it is for Kate, but Kate knows what it is for Kate. You know, so I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying that what I would have done was wrong, but what I would have done was different, right? And it may have gone somewhere else and it may not have, you know, so it's just, here you go. Here's your hub. There's 360 ways to go. None of them are wrong. If they don't work, you got some information, right? Go do something different. I'm going to shut up. Your turn, Gerard.
Oh, I was just going to say, and I direct messaged Linda during this, that it was so cool to see what I offered you, and maybe sent you and I saw somebody ask, can we send out the little protocol thing? Yes, we'll send out that handout. But that you did something different than I originally taught, which was rather than just say, okay, thinking about the unwanted behavior, did it go up? Did it stay the same? Or did it come down? You did that the first time. And then after that, you kind of like got a little more EMDR and said, you know, what's coming up for you? Which I was sitting there thinking, like, let's see if this works. And guess what? It worked. Like, like Kate knew kind of what the idea was. And even though she had this, association with the, with the Jello, and which was fascinating. And, it's always so interesting. And I thought, are you going to be able to finish it in the time? Was the other thought that I had, Rebecca, because now you're starting getting like, what's coming up? And I'm like, oh God, who knows where this is going to go? Guess what? It still worked. So that's what's really cool, is that we're not robots, and people, you kind of went with, everyone knew where we were going, and you were incredibly attuned, and you certainly knew the main idea. And, Kate, at the end, when you were like, when you got emotional and you're like, wow, I'm going to make an intentional adult choice for myself, for something that really says, as an adult, you did a good job, and and you can have this thing. Also, it was very useful that you picked a thing where you could be sated after 2 or 3 of the things, because obviously, if your favorite thing was like, I don't know, sour cream, potato chips or something or other, you could have still gone through 5 bags, and then all we did was replace one terrible habit with the next. But like, it was really cool how you were like, because you in the processing came up with the idea of like, oh no, I was just doing an automatic thing to feed the child who felt depleted. I'm going to do something that I can do that's just going to really take care of me and make me think. So that was just spectacular to watch. I mean, it was really fun.
I thought it was really great, but I wonder, what do you do if somebody says, I want 500 bags of potato chips? What's the next part of the protocol?
I mean, the language that I usually use is something more like, all right, if we're going to pick something now that you can do maybe at the same time of day when you're hit with this, that you can do at 5:30, that you can do that is, a behavior you really value and that you like, and that is good for you. What would be that adaptive behavior? I mean, I'm so prescriptive. I mean, you could see Rebecca has a lovely way about her. I have just a, OCD, kind of like directive way about me. But I do give them that more.
Willis.
What's exactly? But I mean, Rebecca, I'm sure that Rebecca would have just said, all right, well, of course, who doesn't love potato chips? But let's say it was something where you probably would have just brought them back to something where that is, you are trying to resource a more adaptive, thing, and not just another sweet substitute, let's say.
Usually I have because again, I work with kids and teens, I'll have them pick like 2 or 3 things, and then I'm like, which of these feels the most useful to you? Which feels the most accessible in this moment? Because I have some kids that are like, well, I'll just say no. And I'm like, okay, but does that really feel like that'll be useful in this? Like you can do that, because we want to be realistic about this and not, I know the answer I should be saying is I'm going to say no to drugs. So just saying what is the most accessible. Yeah.
The thing that was really great about that is like the other adult self is, well, I should go home and do a Peloton. Like, I don't want to do a Peloton. I don't want to do a swim. Like, I've already, like, I gave it all on the mat. And so you inviting, getting me to something that was realistic. Like, I can do that. Whereas anything like, oh, I should do 20 minutes of yoga before I leave the office, or like all of that would be good, but it wouldn't have been as specifically effective at the feeling state that I have at the end of that kind of day. Because what's interesting, when you had me go to the part about when I resourced into the way I feel after I've taught, I don't do that kind of behavior in that setting. I go put my stuff up and I eat a really good meal. So this is really specific in this really tight way. And that was really helpful. You know, if I'd gone to like, oh, you know, I should meditate for 5 minutes, blah, done, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm never going to eat a kura from Zen Sushi without having just such warm feelings for you as well.
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah. Isn't it nice to see our big kids?
Yeah.
Yeah. Big kid, yeah.
And honestly, what I have found doing this with I think you're now the 3rd adult I've done this with, every single one of them, I don't know if this is happenstance, is always, I'm feeding the little kid in me. That has now seen this 3 times with me. It is, I am feeding the little kid in me. So I've had every single one go, I'm an adult, I'm making an adult decision. So
there's an unconscious memory that comes up that you have just made conscious, right? Oh, this is connected to this. Oh, exertion. I'm with kids, fine, whatever Kate made of it, right? And it's like, oh, I get it. And you could see when she got it. I mean, it's a big change on her face of, that's what this is, right? And then, oh, I want to be a big kid, right? Oh, sushi's for big kids. I'm obviously not a big kid, right? You can have my share of the sushi, love. Raw fish, you can have it for all the big kids. Now, if I could get some of that licorice, since you're not going to be having it, I think, Kelly, I wanted to respond to what you said. I think that when people come in and they say, oh, I want to do this, and you say, okay, well, let's play that out. Is that going to be more helpful? It's really, that's an intellectual question. It's pretty, you come to it pretty soon of, yeah, probably not. That bag of chips is going to go just this, you know what I mean? I don't think you really have to do too much, because if it's an adult you're talking to, it's like, oh yeah, I can see that's probably not the best one. Is there one that I can palliate, one that I can take care of myself, right? Nourish myself with. And again, that's what I said, that there is a difference between Kate leaving the conference versus leaving her office that day. And I think the difference for me is there's a deserving thing of it, of like, okay, well, I deserve this. And I think that's what everybody's not parent, but everybody did. That food was a reward. You know, sugar. I mean, they gave us Jello at swim team, me too, right? It was, yeah. Like everybody was happy, right? And then, you know, an hour later you were pissed or irritable or what, but we didn't know that because we're kids, right? So it makes sense that it would be this right hemisphere of, okay, this goes right here. It's always going right here. It's a rut. And this is, you know, when you ski, that's where you're going to ski down there. Does anybody else have any comments, questions about this session?
To get such vivid sensations of taste and sickness in my stomach. Just super, super interesting how quickly those came on. So it was great.
Can I thank you for mentioning that. You know, the thing that you did is very, very common, and every time not every time, many times I did. You start out at an 8, you go up to a 9 or a 10. Because just like with anytime you connect to a memory or connect to a feeling state, suddenly you really are getting it with all of your senses. And suddenly it's like, whoa, it is really strong. and then it drifts down, and then that sickness in your stomach, I compare it to a lot of the people I work with sexual stuff. The other part, as they desensitize and go down to 8, 7, 5, 4, 2, suddenly all the stuff comes in like, that's not who I want to be, like that, so it's sort of like that, the shame or whatever in a way shows up and says, I don't want to have that, be the thing. So it's just interesting how, as you sort of go down the stairs or down the ladder, you go from that like super, tuned into the thing, and then the new thoughts or the consequence for you, right, is your upset stomach. The consequence comes later on in the protocols. You come down to 5, 4, 3. Suddenly you're like, oh, I'm aware of the consequence here now. So it's that seems to be something that happens each time too.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to have someone fearless, Rebecca, decide to, volunteer, and Kate, it was awesome to see your journey. What I found really helpful is how you all talk, because when someone volunteers to be the person who's leading it, I always think, oh my God, like what would I do? I'd go so many different ways, and like, would it be right? Would it be wrong? So I loved, like, how Linda, how you were saying there's all these ways to go around, and Gerard, you're like, I wouldn't have done it that way. And I loved, because it was beautiful. It worked so nicely. So that gave me a little bit of confidence around, all right, we can all do this, and there's no one way, that we're all so unique. So that was powerful. Thank you.
Beautiful. Go ahead, Melissa.
I was just curious, Gerard, do you see this dramatic? I mean, I don't at all want to minimize, this was wonderful, but when you were talking about you use this more in addiction counseling, do you see this drastic of a change when you're talking about like opiates or benzos or something like that? Like, do you see this drastic of a change with this intervention within our actual addiction? I mean,
yeah, I can't say it's been with opiates and benzos, so I can't speak to that specifically, and that sometimes might be different, but certainly for for alcohol, certainly for other drug stimulants, and absolutely for sexual stuff.
like
I do see that.
behavioral
Yeah,
addictions.
behavioral addictions. I definitely see it that quickly. Yeah, and dramatically, and people just can't keep saying, I can't believe it. Why was I'm not that guy. Why was I thinking I was that guy? I don't want to be that guy. That's not who I am. So it's interesting just in a short period of time to see it.
I want to say something about benzos first. You cannot do EMDR or this with somebody on benzos. You cannot reconsolidate memories when you're on benzos. Opiates, not a lot of people want to come off opiates once they're on them. So you have to get the consequences of what is happening. I mean, people don't, if it's still working, ain't nobody giving it up, right? Go ahead, Barb.
So just a question on the substance use thing. Does this have to be a behavior that they're doing now, like they're doing drugs, or what if they're in recovery but are having cravings? Does it work for that?
I see it more as a structural assist, meaning, let's say that, like with the same thing with the bag. It's just so funny that you use the bag and you're thinking about the bag on the way in the car of the green things, and you're going back and forth. That's every addiction conversation I've ever had, right? Is like, whether it's I'm going to go on the app, I'm going to engage on, something with somebody. It's always like, should I do that? Should I not do that? So it's interesting. I think that you can do it with craving when it's that. If you want to prevent people from getting to it, they don't have to be actively in it. But if they're in that contemplative place where it's like, well, I might slip, or like, lately I've been more stressed, and so I've been entertaining more ideas or fantasizing more about use. I think you can use it for there, and sort of then what you're doing is you're desensitizing around the consideration of it and having it come down. And what could you, when you get in that place, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, whatever it is, what can you do instead to give you your answer to your hunger, your anger, your loneliness, or your tiredness, or whatever it is. So yes, you can do it that way. You don't have to be actively using, but you could it certainly helps to keep people away from use.
Yeah, and one of the things to do with that, Barb, is take them through their last high or take them through the one they want to go to, because all the consequences will get they'll get hooked up there. So you say, okay, so let's say you give in to the craving this time. Let's see what happens. Run that scene, right? And you go all through, and what you're doing is connecting. Okay, well, at the end of this, I feel, oh yeah, I have this feeling, I urge, I want to use it. I use it. I feel better. Then what? Well, there is more. So, and then what? So you keep, they keep tapping. And the next thing is my wife's not talking to me. My kids are pissed, blah, blah, blah. And this is what happens again. So, I mean, you can do that. I mean, the buzzkill, I didn't call it buzzkill. I used to say to people, listen, if you're not ready to have your buzz killed, let's not do this, because we're connecting all the consequences, and you're going to say that's what's going to come up. It's not just the urge, get drugged, feel better. It's urge, get drugged, feel better, have consequences. All of these are in the same neural network after you've processed, right? So I think with some of the craving things are easier to do once if the person's in recovery, like you're saying, and they're having these cravings. All right, go through it. Go through a day in the life when you were using, or now you're going to use again. Let's see how that goes. Like that's
And
what
you're tapping the same time that you're doing that.
I do. I bring the resources on as needed. Yeah, it's just like you would, like a day in the life. That's what, when people are leaving inpatient, I think everybody should do a day in the life of those high risk situations, because most of them are unconscious triggers. It's not, it's not my mother's a trigger. I know that. What's a trigger is I didn't notice I saw that Ziploc bag that reminded me of, the last time that I was up at Aramingo Avenue comping, right? You don't know that. But if you do a day in the life of, go ahead, let's see what happens if you use. Let's just go, we'll take it realistically and see what happens just for the day. We'll see how much fun it is. Because ain't nobody that already quit thinks it's fun, because they stop for a reason, and that comes back.
This reminds me of that saying I've heard a lot about, like, the biggest thing 12-step did for me was it ruined drinking for me. Like I've never again can take a drink without thinking about what they said at that meeting, whether I drink or don't drink. It's never as good once you've been to that first in a 12-step meeting, like for whatever the addiction is, process or substance abuse. But like this reminded me a lot of that, like that it links a thought process to it, that it kind of puts, with my clients, I call it a speed bump, but it's like it puts that speed bump into like, do I really want this? Like it kind of back to that temporariness. And I liked the deserving piece that somebody pointed out too. That seemed like a big piece of it.
It's a very common one too, right? For the adult caretakers of the world. It's very common. If I gave, and now I get to treat myself. And then you think, is it really a treat? Like, okay. I mean, that's kind of what goes on, right? But just saying it doesn't change it, which is, that's the important piece. You have to have the experience, go through it experientially, and that's what changes it, right?
I'm taking it all in. So this is the first time I'm exposed to the buzzkill. And Gerard, I did hear you say that you're going to send us a worksheet, like
yes, it's a worksheet. It's a step-by-step, and then there's a vignette at the end where I run through an actual case.
Okay, because I heard you say that we need to set it up, and I missed step 2. I put step 1, what's the positive emotion you feel in your body with this behavior? And then I put step 3, which we labeled as repairing. What was step 2?
The desensitization, I guess, in between the setup and then the what are we calling it again? Yeah, repairing. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, my hair is looking good. I got to go out. This doesn't happen often. So we're going to end this session so I can let more people see my good hair day. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.